If a person too often agrees to other people's demands, they will change one day. Therefore, we shouldn't be too demanding, and it's better to help each other in times of need and not let our feelings get out of hand. The woman says that the era of magicians is coming very soon, and therefore she is going to sponsor him because she believes that supporting the powers of magicians will bring her benefits, and these are her reasons. The boy asks what he can do to help her. The lady replies that he must protect her if she is in danger and help with her family's affairs. And to do this, he must stay in the Rodenberg house. According to the original story, Susan will become empress and create a new kingdom. But the main thing is that the heroine claims that this time Farron will become emperor. And she asks if he knows about this, because she believes that this is for her survival. The boy, surprised, asks if this is possible, and says that the Countess saved his life. The girl says that if you demand too much from people one day, they will change, and therefore she offers him to enter into a blood contract on terms that they both can accept. The main character explains that to conclude such a contract, two people will need to mix a red liquid, and if one of the parties violates the contract, it could cost them their life. The lady looked at the young man and asked if he was scared. The boy replied that if this is what the Countess wants, he would never break the agreement. The woman says that they will then make an agreement later, when his wound heals, because she thinks that he needs to rest, and then says that if he needs anything, he should let her know about it. The boy asks if he'll stay with her. She says that if it doesn't suit him, then he can live alone. Hearing this, the young gentleman cries out and objects, saying that everything suits him, and that he is very glad that he will live with the Countess. At this time, the main character thought that it was so great, because she pulled him out of this hell, and thinks that she is only better off because of it. The man says that the criminal is Madonna Rodenberg and tells her to raise her head, and then says that she is accused of the following crimes: attempted murder, capital murder, and a coup d'etat. The man asks how she could do that, and then says that, having committed all these crimes, she has no right to ask for clemency. Meanwhile, the girl considers accepting death as atonement. At this point, the girl was lost in thought, and the man asked where she wanted to go. She said she would go to a shelter. The novel, How to Survive as a Wizard, tells the story of how a corrupt empire humiliated magicians. The nobles have no talents other than investing in poor youths as if they were inexplicably buying up expensive jewelry. But in the original story, Madonna chose a mage despised by the rest of humanity. In this corrupted empire, the mage is the one born outcast. The mages, forced to hide and conceal themselves, did everything they could to survive. But among them, Madonna chose someone who stood out from the rest. The main character chose Susan, a girl with outstanding magical abilities. And of course, Madonna betrothed Susan with manners and ceremony. But she trained Susan in such a way that no one would guess about it, just to make sure that the girl was really talented. Susan, who had a kind heart, still became a privileged sorceress, despite the humiliation, and she joined the rebellion to free the magicians. The girl fell in love with the protagonist, and then successfully took revenge on Madame. She overthrew the empire, created a country for mages, and lived happily ever after. Such is the plot of this romantic story. The main character was surprised, because it was incredible that she ended up in a novel, and she became Madonna Rodenberg. At first, she was surprised, but when she realized she was in a novel, she decided she had to do something outside the plot. The lady understands that she must survive and must help Susan, in no case by mocking her. After all, she knows that this time Susan was executed, and she had already died by that time. Before her death, the girl prayed with all her heart for another chance, and God granted her request. The lady understands that tomorrow she will finally see Susan, because in the novel, she was a very honest girl, but she is still interested in what she was really like. The protagonist believes that even if she keeps this diary, she still won't be able to understand Susan. She's been written into history books as a victor, and this novel is ultimately her story. Madonna believes that in the end she will win one way or another, and this time everything will be different, because she will choose Farron, because she knows that he is a villain who will stop Susan, and she will become his patron. The coachman informs the lady that they have arrived. She says he is strict and asks her to wait for a short while. When the girl looked at the building, she thought that this was the orphanage where they gather orphans who know the basics of magic, which the Empire so despises. And this is the place where Susan, the heroine of the novel, is located. Farron is also there. The man invites the lady in, and she says she is pleased to meet him. The young gentleman says it's an honor to meet her, as he didn't expect her to be so young and beautiful. He believes she's so young, yet holds a high position. At this time, the lady thought that he was looking down at her and understood that there weren't many weirdos in the world who wanted to invest money in magicians, and the lady thought that he probably thought she was an idiot. The main character suggests putting aside pleasantries and then announces that she wants to choose a child for patronage, and then orders them to be brought here as quickly as possible. The man informs her that in accordance with her requirements, he has chosen little girls. Hearing this, the Countess asks if she requested this and recalls that it was 10 years ago. Then she announces that she has changed her mind and wants to choose a boy as well. The lady says that boys and girls don't matter, and so orders the boys to be brought too. And at that moment, she thought that no matter what she was going to take Farron and sort out this orphanage. The Countess asks what's going on, and if there are any problems, she asks how long it will take to bring the children. Then she says she's terribly busy, and therefore orders them to give her a list of the children first. The man gives her a list, and the lady says she'll study it first. The gentleman says he'll get everything ready in the meantime. At this time, the main character thought that this was a disappointment, because someone like him should be crushed by the force that would open his eyes. The lady says that she has been through a lot, so when she sees something like this, it makes her work on herself. Farron Paul is a 12-year-old male with black hair and red eyes, who needs close attention due to his rebellious nature and habit of talking back. Susan Paul female, 12 years old, dark blue eyes and light gray hair, easygoing character, caring for others. The Countess thought that she had not seen these questionnaires in her past life, and it seemed that there were no special notes in them. Suddenly, the girl heard Susan being asked if Farron had hit her again. The little girl replied that he hadn't hit her, but he constantly teased her, and that she was afraid when he was around. The little girl with silver hair asks the lady not to take Farron with them. At this time, the main character thought that from the way she pretends to be a miserable sheep to the fake tears, her acting is impeccable. The Countess says that there are very loud screams, and then asks what is going on, and thinks that this time this girl will not be able to fool her. The shelter worker apologizes to the lady, and then asks if she thinks it is too noisy there, and then says that this girl is still very young, and then tells her to apologize to the Countess. The girl apologizes for disturbing the lady. Hearing this, the protagonist thinks that despite being just a child, she's still frightening her, and then asks if he's prepared. He apologizes and says he'll fix it immediately. The man grabs Susan's hand and tells her to stop crying, and offers to go with him, then tells the Countess that he will soon come to the reception room. The protagonist realizes that the original story doesn't reveal details about Farron's childhood. She wonders if the boy ever bullied the girl when they lived together in the orphanage. This was revealed after they both grew up, and the novel fully reflects the perspective of the winner. For the sake of a future inseparable from Susan, the Countess needs true power, capable of protecting her. She believes this person must possess magic equal to Susan's, and the person in question is Farron. The lady thought about how, in her past life, she had considered him a villain. Of course, she couldn't trust him completely, but Susan had also stabbed her in the back. The main character thought that everything was right, and she and Farron just had to use each other to their advantage. And this time, she should prepare a method for controlling the chain. The shelter worker tells the Countess that he transferred all the boys as she ordered. The main character looked at the guys and thought that only Susan was dressed appropriately. But on the other hand, the boy with black hair and red eyes was nowhere to be seen, and she believed that this girl had managed to get rid of Farron after all. The man says that she can calmly study the children, examine them, and then make a choice. The Countess says she just saw a boy on the list, but he's not here. He screams and insists there's no boy she's talking about. The lady says that she likes black hair and red eyes, and she remembers him well, and then asks where this child is. The parson insists that this boy is so stupid, and he's afraid she'll be upset if she sees him. The lady insists she'll draw her own conclusions later, then reminds him that she told him to bring all the children on the list, and then asks if he looks down on her. The man objects and says, "How dare he?" and then asks her to wait a minute. The Countess says that she has already wasted too much time, and therefore will go and see the boy herself, and then asks if the children live on the second floor. The parson asks the lady to wait. The boy asks Farron if he's in his room now, and his friend replies that he's been locked in the isolation cell for an examination. Susan approaches the Countess and says that she knows where this boy is now, and therefore will take her there. Hearing this, the main character looked at the girl and thought that she had just accused Farron of beating her and showing all kinds of fear, and now she was saying that she would take her to the boy. The Countess thought she was a liar, trying to get her attention, believing this little girl to be so cunning that she didn't even look like a child. She reflected that if she had looked more closely at her in her past life, she would have been able to recognize her soul and body. Madonna asks the little girl if she'll walk with her. The girl offers to follow her. The main character thought that before returning, she met Farron only once, and he had black hair, bright red eyes, and there was some kind of devilish charm in him, and he told her to be careful. Susan was trying to steal the Rothenbergs' fortune and was plotting behind the scenes, and the only person who knew Susan's evil nature came to give her advice. The Countess recalls that back then, she trusted Susan implicitly, and she got angry and thought that a sweet child like Susan could never be like that, and so she drove him away without blinking an eye. The girl thought that looking back, she realized how stupid she was, so when she realized that she had been reborn, the first thing she thought about was Farron. The little girl tells the lady that they're there. The lady says the door is locked and asks if she has a key. Susan replies that she doesn't have the key, and the main character doesn't understand why she brought her here then. The little girl says that there is a window in the door, and she can look through it, and then says that Farron is very violent and dangerous. The parson asks Susan why she came here alone. She replies that the Countess asked him to accompany her. Hearing this, the lady thought that she herself came here, and now she is lying again. The shelter worker says the Countess sees this boy as such a problem child that he has to be locked up in solitary confinement. The lady then begs to open the door. The lady thought that when the door opened, she smelled a very musty smell, and the man told the boy that he couldn't sleep yet because he had a guest and asked him to behave decently. The Countess says that it is dark in the room. The parson apologizes and then says that he will now light the lanterns. When the light appeared in the room, the lady saw a boy whose whole body was covered in bruises. She asked in surprise what happened and whether they were beating him. The parson explains that this is a punishment for committing a misdemeanor, and the girl asks the boy if he can show her his body. A few minutes later, the Countess says it looks even worse than his face, and then asks the child if he's okay. She realizes the flaws aren't just on his face and neck. Madonna asks if they always use corporal punishment. The man defends himself by saying that it's not usually like that, and that the boy had committed a serious offense, so he went a bit overboard with the punishment. Susan screams and tells him that this guy stole her things. The parson agrees with the girl and says that this is true and Farron is a thief. The lady looked at the boy and asked if he believed her, and then said that she does not hate liars. The girl claims that this boy is a liar and asks the lady not to believe him, and then reports that he stole something valuable from her. The Countess turns to the director and asks if he taught her that one should not interfere in other people's conversations. The parson asks the girl to stop crying and says that he understands how she feels, but since she is standing in front of the Countess, she must behave differently. Farron claims he didn't steal anything. Hearing this, the principal says it's obviously a lie, and the main character looks at the girl and thinks she's sure Susan is lying, but she knows no one will believe the boy's words. The lady says that in that case, the director can first tell her everything in detail. Parson says it happened last month when some staff from headquarters, who visit several times a year, came to visit. One of them said Susan was a very beautiful girl and gave her a silver brooch that he himself wore. The main character can't figure out whether Susan's cuteness attracts his attention. The man says the girl was so happy that she showed the brooch to her friends and always wore it on her outfits. However, about a week later, the brooch disappeared. The director says he searched everywhere to find the brooch, and he looked into every nook and cranny, but it was nowhere to be found. Finally, unable to find the brooch in any of the hidden places, he simply looked and discovered it in Farron's dresser. The girl says that this guy always offended her, but she never thought that he would turn out to be a thief. The lady asks the guy if this is true, and the boy assures that he did not take it, and then says that if he had stolen it, he would not have left the brooch in such a prominent place. The Countess says that this sounds quite reasonable, but nevertheless, he has no evidence, and then asks if he can prove his innocence. The young man didn't know what to say at this point, and the director said he was trying to bully Susan again, and therefore deemed there was no need to listen to his explanation. The lady asked, what if he had evidence, and she wondered what he would do then. The man says that if there is evidence, he believes that everything will become much simpler. The boy says he knows how to find evidence and suggests simply casting a manifestation spell on the brooch. The manifestation spell is a type of magic that allows you to see the memories left on an object in the form of moving images. Wizards hate this spell and try not to mention it. However, it is often used during crime investigations. The main character realizes that all that remains now is to invite a mage capable of casting a manifestation spell. The director says it's very expensive. The Countess says that's true, because she hates those who constantly lie shamelessly, and therefore believes they must find out who the real liar is in order to make the right decision. And immediately after that, she will decide who will become her ward. The woman says she'll send someone to find a mage who can cast a manifestation spell. But when she looks at the girl, she doesn't understand why she's reacting that way. Farron informs the Countess that he can cast a manifestation spell. Hearing this, Susan assures him that he is a liar, and then turns to the Countess and claims that he is lying. At this time, the main character realized that this girl panicked and had a completely different reaction and believed that she was really hiding something. The lady suggests they try it just once, as they'll immediately know whether it's true or not. She asks the boy why he didn't use the manifestation spell earlier to find proof. Farron replies that he thought the mistress wouldn't believe him. The director tells the Countess that their orphanage had never taught such complex magic. The Countess tells the boy that she hopes he will not disappoint her, and then offers the girl to give her the brooch. The boy thanked the lady for giving him this chance, because he just wants to find out where the truth is and where the lie is. Using magic, the guy mapped the brooch's entire movement. When the girl saw it, she screamed and said it couldn't be true, because she saw herself in the picture and how she'd planted the brooch. Susan fell to her knees and insisted that everything was wrong, and that she really didn't do it. The main character thought it was odd, since Susan had discovered her true power in the same way. However, she decided that now was not the time to think about it and asked if the girl was disappointed. The little girl insists she's not like that. The principal says Susan was disrespectful and will teach her a lesson later. The Countess approaches the director and says that looking at the list of orphanage residents and the children he brought to the reception area, she notices that the number of people is unreasonably inflated. She also believes he maintains 2 lists to steal money from the treasury. The lady asks if she can punish him with the law, and then says that she chooses Farron as her ward, and therefore she will take him away from there immediately because she believes that his powers will soon expire anyway. The boy asks the Countess if he can take her hand, and she suggests doing as she wishes. When the main character left the orphanage, she thought that everything was fine, and she should calm down, because now Susan was just a weak child, and then she told the coachman to return home. The lady tells the assistant that on the way, he should not forget to file a complaint with the authorities against the management of the shelter, and also tell the striped raven to come to her tomorrow night. And also, he should keep this a secret from her mother. Madonna thought that now everything would be different, and completely different. Farron tells the lady he was so frightened he didn't even thank her properly. She insists there's nothing to thank her for, and then announces that this will be a fair trade. The Countess says that times are changing, and she thinks that very soon magicians will gain recognition, and therefore she is going to patronize him. The woman says that for the same reason he must improve his magical skills in order to help her in the future, because these are the terms of the deal. The boy asks what he can do for her. She replies that he can protect her if she's in danger, and then when he grows up, he can help her with chores around the house. Farron asks if he can help her with such things, because he understands that the Countess saved his life, but he cannot repay her in any way. The lady explains that if you demand too much from a man, he might change his mind, and therefore believes they should sign a contract whose terms will suit them both. And when his wounds are completely healed, they will enter into a blood pact. The Countess asks him if he is scared, and the boy replies that it all seems like a dream, and he is not at all scared because he is happy to be next to her. Farron says he's lucky the Countess allowed him to use a manifestation spell, as he believes Susan would have cast a trace erasing spell on the brooch otherwise. Hearing this, the main character wonders if Susan was so skilled in magic before her transformation. She points out that the girl is the same age as him and asks if she's really that good at magic. She also inquires if she has a personal mentor in magic. The boy says that they hid it from the director, but once or twice a month, a wizard visited the orphanage. During each visit, this man taught the children magic, and the magician even gave them books of spells. The lady realizes that there was no mention of this in the original novel, and then asks if he knows who it was. The boy says that he doesn't know this man, because he always wore a black robe and covered his face, and therefore he doesn't know him. The Countess asks if he told them his name. The boy says he doesn't know the man's name either. The main character thought about how she'd try to find out about him without making a fuss. Then she said she'd be counting on his help in the future, and they shook hands. Farron claims that he will definitely become her powerful weapon. That evening, the lady asks the man if he's home. The man asks how she dares to invite him without his master's permission. The woman suggests they skip the unnecessary greetings. The green-haired boy was the leader of the Striped Raven mercenary group. He asked why she suddenly called him so late at night. Jack says that if she needs someone to entertain her, their organization does not provide such services. The main character thought they could do anything for money, and most of the Rotenbergs' deals were theirs. Because she doesn't know their ages or their lives, she can't quite believe it, but that's just the way things are. The Countess informs him that she did not call him names for the sake of gossip, and therefore does not need to worry, and then informs him that she needs him to track down one prey and what the past of this prey conceals. A pupil of the Lanton Orphanage, a 12-year-old girl named Susan. Jack asks if she's considered the possibility that they could also deal with her loot. Then he asks the lady why she would go to such lengths for a mere orphan. Madonna smiled and said that as far as she knew, the rules of their organization prohibited finding out the reasons if he was given an assignment, and then asked where his ethics were. Leader apologizes and then says he's just a little surprised. Lady says there's no need to deal with this matter right now, as she believes the shelter will soon be closed anyway, and the government will sort everything out. Jack says that nobles hate to confront the central government openly, and asks if that's true. The lady says enough of the jokes, and asks if he's willing to take on the matter. The man says he will fulfill her order and send a notification about the money a little later, and therefore offers to send it to him privately. He says he hopes she will contact him more often in the future. The main character thought that despite the fact that she wanted to get to Susan, she couldn't remain defenseless, and she would simply entrust him with this matter and forget about it, since now she had much more important concerns. Several weeks had passed since Farron's arrival. Although his entire body was covered in bruises and marks from corporal punishment, thanks to treatment, he was recovering quickly. When the lady saw the boy, she was surprised, because he didn't have a single scratch. The doctor said everything was fine, as long as he took his medication. No new bruises would appear. The Countess invites the boy to go for a walk together, and suggests that he take a stroll through the city along the Street of Artists. Artist Street offers everything from clothing and jewelry to household goods and essentials. This area is home to shops selling handicrafts. At the very top of the street, only goods are sold at prices affordable to commoners. But if you go deeper into the street, you'll find things truly worthy of attention. Expensive elite goods that are of interest to nobles. The woman says that they usually have new items brought to their castle, but today they'll go and present it to them. The boy, surprised, asks if they'll introduce him. The Countess says that's correct, and that whenever he comes to the store alone, they'll give him things. The boy, surprised, asks if they'll treat him the same way. The lady assures him that everything will be just as it is, since he now lives in this house, and therefore should develop good taste, believing that people with a lot of money should know how to properly purchase valuable things. And she thinks he will learn this too. The servants greet the Countess, delighted to see their mistress. The master says he heard she needs some things for her charge. She says he's right, and then announces that the boy himself has arrived. The woman tells him that when he meets with her in the future, he should consider her accepted. The salesman says he understands and will give his subordinates appropriate instructions to ensure they don't make any mistakes. The lady asks the boy if he is worried, and then assures him that everything is fine. Farron says that if he's going to represent their family, he has no room for error. The lady points out that he's still very young, so mistakes are inevitable, and then suggests he go ahead and not be afraid. The Countess says this outfit uses Ribon fabrics, with a lining of Lonquel silk for a luxurious feel. He says it looks great because the wooden buttons contrast and add style. The lady says that cold weather is coming and offers to bring them more coats. The boy asks the Countess if the clothes suit him. She says a new shipment of fabric will arrive in a couple of weeks, and they'll try them on and think it over again. Farron says the lady is no slouch. She insists he'll have to learn the same. The lady informs that their family owns many mines. Popular jewelry and ornaments will always change according to fashion demands, and therefore he needs to be receptive to such things. Madonna believes this is very important, and if he can predict fashion trends, it's worth investing more money in them. The boy insists he'll study hard, but she asks if he can spot the latest trends. The boy says that Ribon fabrics are quite bright in color and have a smooth inner texture, and that wine-colored shades have been in fashion lately. The lady was surprised, because she realized that he remembered what she told the employees, and then said that he has a good memory. Farron reports that this outfit has another name, but at that time, they heard the question of who he was to stand in his way. The gentleman asks if this girl is a pre-registered guest. She says she hasn't seen Mr. Talcio in a while. The man asks if it is true what people are saying about her family all over the place, since her mother announced that she would marry her off to the crown prince. Count Cavan Talcio, a man drowning in debt, found success after a successful venture. He once proposed to Madonna, but was categorically rejected by her mother. Ever since he's held a grudge against the Rothenberg family. The lady replies that these are just rumors, and then asks how such a businessman could believe this. Cavan says that this is true because a prince who is of sound mind would never allow this. The main character thought that she hadn't seen him for a long time, but this man knows how to awaken hatred in people. The man asks where this child came from in the Rothenberg family. She replies that he's her ward. The gentleman asks what his abilities are. The lady replies, magic. Kavanagh asks, surprised if she's investing in him to make a fool of herself. He insists that, for heaven's sake, there's something wrong with her. He thinks high society would appreciate it. At this time, the main character thought that it was disgusting, because all these gossips that the nobility spread behind his back, and she had heard enough of them, and they had become boring even before his rebirth. The Countess says that the point of such funding is to identify potential value, and she highly valued the future of this child, which is why she chose him. Count Cavan laughed and said she saw value in a pile of trash. The lady asked if he also used his instincts in trade deals. Then she said she knew the existence of mages was now perceived as something ordinary, but she believed that was only for the time being. The lady claims that the value of magicians will increase in the near future. The man, surprised, asks what nonsense she's talking about, then says that wizards are just trash and shouldn't be considered anything. After all, if they had any value, it would have been discovered long ago. Madonna expresses her curiosity, then takes the man's hand and asks if he can see the lining in the waistcoat. She explains that it's a Lonquel lining, thin, soft, and shiny, and it's an essential part of a nobleman's attire. The lady asks if he knows how this silk is made. Cavan asks how he would know that. The woman laughed and said that, of course, Lonquel mountain silk is made from the larvae of beetles, poisonous insects widely known in this mountainous region. Then she explained that before humans discovered their value, these beetles were also worthless. The Count asks if she means, in other words, that mages will begin to be valued, like those beetles. She says the point is to foresee future values, and asks if he understands. The main character reports that producing mountain silk in large quantities requires a lot of money, which means that large financial investments are needed. And so the producers made a business proposal to a noble family that did not have the gift of foresight, and therefore refused this offer. The Countess says it seems it was their Talcio family, and then asks if that's true. After all, that would explain why he knows nothing about Lonquel silk. The lady advises the Count to watch his language, as she believes her position is beneath him. But now that the title of Countess will pass to her, he will have to be careful. She then says that arguing with a short-sighted and narrow-minded man is completely pointless. The lady nevertheless thanks him, because thanks to him, their family has a monopoly on the trade of Lonquel silk. I heard this, the man got angry, and then said that they would live and see, because he would never forget today's insult, and then he left. The lady asks the boy how he is, and also wonders if he was very scared. Farron explains that he's fine, but is surprised, because the man spoke to the Countess like that. Medina argues that this is perfectly natural for high society, as nobles aren't nearly as grateful as he thinks. The boy says he wants to grow up as quickly as possible to become the Countess's protector. The lady suggests he not worry about it, as he's only 12 years old and believes he should enjoy life while he can. The guy says that the Countess is not yet an adult either, but she claims that she is still older than him. The saleswomen ask the lady if she's okay. The lady says that, in any case, it was all her fault, and that she will compensate for the damage caused by Count Talcio. The woman says this isn't necessary, but the lady objects, claiming that these businesses are very important to her family, and therefore suggests putting everything on her account. The saleswoman says that they will then give her a discount and asks what they should do with the things that the Count touched. The lady suggests sending them to a charity fund because the things the Count touched cause her inconvenience. The woman invites the mistress to rest in the living room while they tidy it up. The boy says the Countess suffered because of this man, and she explains that this is also a kind of investment. Hearing this, he is surprised, and the lady explains that buying the favor of others is an investment. The lady suggests imagining that the store will need a depositor for valuable items in the future, and among the suitable candidates will be the Talcio family and their family. Then she asks who they will give preference to. Medina explains that there's certainly a chance they'll choose the one with the better offer, but if the offers from both families are the same, they'll choose the ones who left a good impression. The lady believes that people's hearts are not won overnight, and it is high time to show sincerity, money, and labor, because she thinks that they need all this. Farron asks if today's losses are an investment to buy other people's favor. She says he's right, as the best way to show your sincerity is with money. The lady says that he should not doubt that investments will bring benefits, and make sure that he spends his money wisely. The boy asks if this means that she generously invests money in him, and also wonders if she shows him her sincerity, in other words. At this point, the protagonist reflected on how she had behaved similarly with Susan. She had given her not only money, but also her love, even though that investment had failed. However, she realized that favor and affection are two different things. The Countess says that after they sign the treaty, he will no longer be able to betray her, but if he trusts her, you can assume that this is her way of showing him her sincerity. The boy says he's glad to hear this and wants to win her favor. He says the lady has a lot of money, but he'll do everything he can to prove his sincerities. The servant tells the Countess that everything is fine now, and they will bring new outfits for her to look at. At this time, the lady thought that she hoped that Farron's favor, which she felt would be as gentle as his warm hand. When the girl returned home, the maid reported that the Countess was already home. The main character was surprised to hear this, as she had thought her mother's business trip would last 2 weeks. Then she asks why she returned so early. The maid says that she said that the circumstances of the case have changed for the worse, and it seems to her that she wants to arrange a surprise for my lady, since that is what she always does. Madonna thought that she might see her mother again, who died from an unknown disease, and therefore she was a little worried. The maid reports that the Countess said she wants to have dinner with her and her ward. The lady asks the boy if he's tired. Farron, a little worried, asks what if she doesn't like him knowing he's a mage. The girl tells him not to be afraid, as her mother is very strict but fair. Farron insists he'll do everything he can to please her. She tells him to keep it that way because it's the right attitude. And then she thinks that if she doesn't like his magic, she'll just throw him out. But she hopes everything will be all right. The daughter greeted Mother Luciola Rodenberg, who was the head of the House of Rodenberg women, inheriting titles in the empire, became common less than 100 years ago. Therefore, people still look down on women who lead their families, but Luciola is considered an exception. After her husband's death, she single-handedly became the head of the family. She then made the Rotenbergs the wealthiest family in the entire empire, so others couldn't speak ill of them. The main character recalls that in the past, the cause of her mother's illness remained unknown, and therefore she thinks now to pay more attention to her treatment in order to find out the whole truth. The mother asks if this is her ward. She says yes and invites the boy to greet the Countess. He says he is pleased to meet the Countess, and his name is Farron. The boy says he knows little about the good manners accepted among the nobility, and if he behaves disrespectfully, he asks for a scolding. The lady says that self-knowledge is true wisdom. Medina thought that, fortunately, the boy made a good impression on his mother, but she would still like to know if his mother and Susan had met in the past. The daughter tells her mother that she heard that some complications arose in their case, and that is why she returned early and asks what happened. The Countess explains that she had to go south to the city of Latiche to make a deal, but the bridge leading to the city suddenly collapsed, and she needs to bring goods there since it will not be possible to use boats. The main character asks if there's a bypass. Mother explains that the town is located among rocky mountains and overlooks a river, and the bridge was the only way. She reports that the town's residents are also going through hard times due to the blocked roads. Madonna asks when the bridge will be restored. The lady says it won't be for another month or two at the earliest. Since their goods are used in the spring, they're having problems. The woman turns to the boy and then apologizes, thinking he probably isn't interested in hearing about such things. He objects and says everything is fine. The lady suggests they begin eating. Mother says she understands why her daughter chose the Farron, as she didn't ask for it to be brought as a table decoration, and one way or another, it will require a substantial investment in the future. Luciola turns to the boy and says she wants to make sure he's truly valuable. Hearing this, her daughter wants to say something, but her mother forbids her and tells her to sit still. Mother says that Madonna brought him home because he is a wizard, and then asks if he can show what he is worth as a wizard. Farron replies that he can, and if it doesn't bother her or cause her harm, then he would try to solve the problem with the collapsed bridge. Hearing this, the Countess was surprised and said that lying is a bad habit, and then asked if he was ready to answer for his words. Farron insists he said he could do it and isn't lying. The lady agrees and says that if she takes him at his word and the shipment fails again, their family will suffer enormous losses. Luciola says that even if this happens, she will not demand compensation from him for damages, but if he continues to boast and smugly talk about his abilities after this, she will cancel all the monetary investments she promised him. The daughter wanted to say something, but her mother objected, saying she wasn't the mistress of the house yet, and that this was her order as head of the family. She asked the boy if he agreed with her. Farron replies that everything suits him. The lady suggests going to the city in a week and tells Madonna that she will take the lead in this deal. The young lady agrees, and at that moment, she thinks about how she'll have to take responsibility for this matter along with the boy. After all, she knows that fire hardens gold, and adversity hardens men. That's her mother's motto. But she wonders if everything will be all right. A pink-haired girl asks a guy why he acted so recklessly. He asks surprised if she's happy. Madonna says that if his plan works, everything will be fine. But if it fails, Farron insists that everything is fine and he can do it. The guy says that he can only show her these trivial spells, but he would like to prove his sincerity to her, and so he decided to help her with this problem. The lady claims he's getting the hang of things quickly, and the boy happily says she just praised him. The main character tells him that if everything works out, he will grow in her mother's eyes. The boy says he only wants to grow in her eyes. Hearing this, the girl smiles. Farron says he was terribly upset when they were in that shop, and after her words, he realized he couldn't do anything. He says he wants to help somehow, so that Milady and the Countess won't regret patronizing the mage. The lady says that even if he fails, she will trust him, and therefore believes that it is better to postpone signing the contract for now. The kid asks if she's talking about the blood pact, and then says that if he doesn't complete this task, he wonders if he'll be sent back to the orphanage. Madonna assures that this will not happen, and no matter what happens, she will not stop patronizing him. Farron thanked his lady and then asked if she could give him her hand. She asked why, and the boy leaned over and kissed her, then insisted he would definitely succeed in remaining by her side. The main character says she's counting on him. The guy thinks she must be tired and apologizes for keeping her. He thinks the lady should go back to her room and rest. Madonna thought that it was impossible not to admit that this child was very smart, and she hoped that he would succeed in this matter. A week later, they arrived at the destroyed bridge. When the main character saw this sight, she realized that everything was much worse than she thought. She wondered if it was all because of the storm. Farron looked at this ruin and said that it was good that no one was hurt, and thought that there shouldn't have been any storm at that time, and thought that was strange. The lady says that he will have to go to the river, and then informs him that the carts will arrive in a couple of hours, and asks if he is okay. The workers ask who they are. The man says it's Madonna Rotenberg, who sent them the telegram, and offers to negotiate with them, not to get in their way. The worker asks if they weren't planning to cross the river by boat. The lady replies that they will transport the goods, not by boat, but in carts. Hearing this, the man, surprised, asks if she wants to ford the river, and then tells her that the water level is very high and dangerous. Then you offer to clear the way, so that nothing impedes traffic. The lady ordered the prepared treats to be brought, and in a few minutes, the servant had set the table with plenty of drinks and snacks. Seeing this treat, the workers say that they will quickly clean everything up. The lady tells the boy that the river is very deep and asks him to be careful. He thanks her for her concern. Farron touched the ground with his hand and began to act with magic. At this time, the main character watching him thought that the projection spell worked, and the bridge created by Farron was just a formless illusion because she knew that the boy would share his plan with her in advance. The lady wonders if anyone can cross this bridge because the bridge supports are made of light, and the river water flows in and deforms. The boy says that he created a strong bridge, but he knows that creating solid materials requires a large amount of magical energy, but he really did it. Farron reflected on how using the waters had reduced the magical energy consumption and further strengthened the bridge. He then asked Milady if he had done well, and reflected on how he had made the right choice. The boy reports that the bridge can support a load of carts with goods, and he has calculated the load on the support. The lady, surprised, asks how he managed to learn all this. He replies that no one at the orphanage forbade him from going to the library. So whenever he had free time, he went there and read everything he could find, and he thinks it was useful reading. Madonna says he's done well. The boy turns to Milady and reports that he discovered something strange in the collapsed bridge, a magical seal. The main character asks in surprise whether this bridge was destroyed by the wizard. Farron says he's not sure that there are literally just a couple of magical traces left, and he doesn't even know what kind of magic the man used, since it would be incredibly difficult to destroy such a large bridge using spells alone. The lady wonders if this man like him can cast a spell to reshape them. The boy says there might be a way to do it with spells he doesn't know. The girl agrees with him and says that since he doesn't know, they will report everything to the city council, Letitia. The boy asks if he can help. The lady suggests he try to remember the magical traces. She understands that finding the culprit will be difficult, even if they conduct an investigation now. The men ask in surprise how they can cross this bridge. The main character assures them that there won't be any problems. The man says he's never seen such a bridge before. Then, surprised, he asks if a carriage is supposed to cross it. Madonna reports that she personally walked across the bridge. The man says that people and carts are different things because he thinks it might collapse again. At this time, the main character thought that, as she had assumed, they were very scared. And then she asked the young man to borrow his whip for a while and said that she herself would cross the bridge in a cart. The servant tells the countess that it is too dangerous, but she assures him that it is not scary at all because she believes that horses are intelligent and sensitive creatures. And most importantly, they instinctively sense danger. Farron tells my lady that he will go with her. She agrees, and then they decide. Madonna asks the men what they will say since they have safely crossed the bridge, and then offers to transport all their goods now. All further issues were resolved in a matter of minutes, because this was an unthinkable event. And needless to say, the profit was greater than they expected. The main character also shared with the Letitia City Council ways to protect the bridge. No magician could replicate Farron's spell, and the girl decided to keep his magical power a secret, and the boy calculated that the magical bridge would last only a month. The main character believes this was enough time to build a new bridge. The Letitia Closed City Council publicly expressed its gratitude to the Rotenberg family. This was done by a magician patronized by the Rotenbergs, and this story was widely publicized in the newspapers. Luciola says she never thought this case would cause so much noise, and she doesn't know if it could cause trouble for their family. The Countess says the publicity has been enormous, and the family's name has become even more famous. But she believes that if Farron is now made public, it will cause unrest. The woman believes that the boy is still very young and has a lot to learn, and she wants to postpone his introduction to society until a later date. The main character thought that Farron would come out into the world only when he became an adult, not earlier. The mother says that first they need to get some good rest, and then turns to the boy and says that she hopes that he will continue to work well in the Rotenberg house. The guy agrees with her and assures her that this is how it will be. Medina thought that this was how her mother's test had ended, and all that was left for them to do now was sign the blood contract. The main character thought about how she had become so thin, and that a month had already passed since her mother's death, and that all the maids with whom she was close had met with misfortunes, and they had quit one after another. One left beside the lady except Susan. The girl brought her lunch and said that the lady must be strong, since she was now the head of the Rothenberg family. The Countess says she should have been prepared for her coming out, then thinks the girl must be terribly disappointed. The little girl objects, saying no, not at all, and suggests her mistress not worry and just take care of her health. Medina realizes that a month has already passed and feels she needs to pull herself together. She suggests the girl go shopping and buy her the latest fashion dress. Susan says that she is very grateful to her for this, but she is afraid that people will gossip about her, and if her dress is more luxurious than the lady's. But the lady interrupts her and tells her not to pay attention to other people's words, since she believes that all these outfits suit her more than her. The girl says that the lady looks very good in dark-colored dresses, especially blue and brown, and then suggests that the lady go. The main character looked at the girl and thought that she must have been through a lot since she grew up at such a young age, and she thinks that she will definitely make her better, since her duty is to stand behind and support Susan so that she can shine. Madonna informs them that they now need to choose which social events they'll attend and explore the state of high society. She apologizes for being laid up for so long, especially when they have so much to do. Susan suggests not to say that because she understands the grief sister has gone through, and then apologizes for what she said and explains that she always considered her older sister, which is why she misspoke. The lady says that everything is fine, and she can call her sister when they are alone, because besides, her mother died, and she considers her a member of her family. Hearing this, the girl smiled, and then hugged the lady and called her Sister Madonna. At this time, the main character thought that she had no one except Susan. Madonna woke up and realized that it was a dream, and she believes that it was a dream and nothing happened, and therefore she should calm down. The lady saw the report regarding her target, and no special features were revealed, but she can see more detailed information below. The protagonist understands that nothing special has happened yet, but she must be on guard because she doesn't know when Susan will try to rip her throat out. However, everything seems to be going as usual. The Countess reflected on her nervousness about having to sign the blood pact today. She thought everything was fine since Susan was no longer in her life, and a peaceful future awaited her with Farron. The boy wishes the lady good morning and says that she is very beautiful today and looks dazzling. Hearing this, the Countess says he knows how to talk sweetly. The boy insists he's telling the truth, and then asks why she's wearing dark clothes today, and if she likes those colors. Madonna explains that it's not that she likes it, I think that bright colors just don't suit her. Farron assures that this is not the case, and says that of course the dark-colored outfits that she often wears look elegant and suit her very well, but he thinks that she would look amazing in a luxurious dress of a bright shade. Hearing this, the main character remembered that when she went shopping with Susan, she always chose dark-colored clothes for her, and therefore she thought that such outfits suited her better, and she began to wonder if brightly colored clothes would suit her too. The lady says she doesn't often wear clothes in other colors and thinks it would look a little odd. The boy says he's sure it would suit her perfectly and suggests that the next time they go shopping, he suggests she buy a new dress in a different color and style. The main character says that they agreed and will talk about it later, since it is time for them to go, because she believes that otherwise they will not be late for the meeting. Temple of Latoha, Goddess of Hope and Justice. The priest tells the lady he's glad to see her and reports that he heard she arrived today to seal a blood pact. He asks with whom she will be making the pact. Madonna replies that she's with the boy accompanying her today. The Reverend says it's clear to him and asks to be allowed to escort them to the altar. He says the two people making the pact must stand facing each other before the altar. Farron takes an extra step and tells my lady that he would like to grow up quickly. The priest says he'll explain everything to them in detail, then explains that a blood pact can only be made once in a lifetime, and those who sign it will be bound to each other for the rest of their lives. Each person has only one opportunity to make this pact. The priest says that one day in the future, there may come a time when they will regret this agreement, and perhaps they will no longer be satisfied with the terms of the agreement, or they will decide that they have tied themselves to the wrong person. The man says that no matter what, the contract that was sealed cannot be broken, and then asks if they agree to this. The boy answered the question first, and he agreed. At that moment, the man thought about how young this boy was, how great a future awaited him, and how his life would be bound by unbreakable bonds. Yet he seemed perfectly happy. The Reverend asks Milady if she agrees to everything the Countess says. Of course she does. He then suggests they communicate the terms of their agreement, knowing that the more specific the terms, the more irrevocable his power will be. Medena says that in this case, no matter what happens, let him not betray the other side of this alliance. Farron approaches the priest and says he has a question, then asks if he can add any conditions. The priest replies that of course he can, since a blood contract is made once and for life, but he can only add more than one condition if the other party to the union gives their consent. The boy tells his lady that he would like to add one more condition to their agreement. She agrees, believing it would be unfair for her to be the only one making her own demands, and then asks him what he would like to add. Farron says the conditions don't seem strong enough to him, and that it simply sounds like, "Don't betray me." The lady is surprised to hear this, and he says he'll never betray her. But who knows? Maybe in the future he'll cause her trouble or put her in an awkward position. The guy asks if he can do something else, like leave her, and so he would like to add something to this condition, and then says that no matter what happens, they should never part with each other. Farron explains that this is a slightly vague condition because everyone understands the words "not to separate" in their own way. And for example, he is not able to move away from each other even a step, or they must be close in terms of graphic distance. The boy says that in this situation, it doesn't matter whether the other party agrees or not, because it's like riding in the same carriage together every day, and then asks if it's inconvenient. The priest says that if this is so, then everything is fine, and the boy asks Milady what she thinks. The protagonist was surprised to hear this, as she hadn't even imagined he would make such a condition. She believes she would be in danger if Farron were far away, and that would be difficult. However, she believes this condition is quite advantageous for her. The lady agrees and says, "So be it." The guy says he's glad she agreed to his terms. The priest says that this is excellent because it means that they have agreed on everything, and says that now they will enter into an agreement to prove the sincerity and trust between the parties. The Reverend states that they will both take the sacred blade and prick their finger, and then they must leave a drop of their red liquid on this dish. Farron says that although this is a condition of the agreement, he really doesn't want to see my lady get hurt. Seeing the red liquid, the lady asks if it hurts. The boy replies that everything is fine. He just doesn't want her to get hurt. Madonna says that there is no need to worry so much, and then offers to give her the blade. The priest says that they are making a pact in front of the goddess Liltohi, and if one of the parties breaks the pact, then the violating party will be subject to forced conversions. The Reverend declares that this is an immutable force that will be with them until their last breath, and then asks Madonna Rotenberg if she and the boy agree. They answer yes. The priest says that the blood pact is sealed in front of the goddess Liltohi. Farron looked at his finger in surprise and said that he did not know that this would happen, and the priest smiled and said that from this moment, and until he breaks the agreement, nothing will change, and until then, he will hope that they both will fulfill the terms of the agreement with all sincerity. The Countess thanked the Holy Father. He said he hoped Liltoka would always protect them. The main character thought about the fact that she had to donate a huge amount of money to the church to hold the ceremony today, but she believes that it was not a waste of money, because from this moment on, she can trust Farron completely. Madonna turns to the guy and says that she is very sorry that he had to make an agreement in her favor, because she knows that they only have one life. The guy asks the lady not to say that, because he was able to make a lifelong contract with her, and it is an honor for him. And then he says that her words sound as if she did something bad. The main character objects and explains that this is not what she meant. Farron says that the whole life he vowed to spend with her sounds like they're engaged. The lady asks what he said, and the boy replies that he said he wants to grow up quickly. The Countess says that there is no need to worry about this, as she knows that they still have a lot of time. The lady says that she feels just fine, and then asks what kind of magic potion this contract is. The main character says that now she can legally raise the boy, but she became curious about what will happen if something goes wrong in the future. Madonna looked out the window and saw Jack, and he said the young lady was home. She asked why he came in broad daylight. The striped raven leader assures her that no one will see him, and therefore tells her not to worry. He then tells her he has important news that he wanted to tell her in person, and asks why she's so cold. The main character suggests he get down to business. He agrees, calling her grumpy, and then informing her that a patron has appeared. The Countess asks if he means to say that a patron has already been found for the sorceress Susan. He replies that he is as nasty as the young Countess. Madonna asks what the man's name is. He replies that it is Count Cavan Talcio, and then asks if she knows him. The lady thought that this was truly a nightmare come true, and she did not understand why this patron had to be Talcio, and considered that this was the most terrible scenario that could be imagined. In the Empire, mages are powerful, but they are universally hated. Susan doesn't yet know how powerful she is, and without her help, she wouldn't have been able to blossom into the light like a beautiful flower. The main character understands that Susan could not go to high school and study the simplest subjects, but she believes that the reasons why Talcio chose Susan are completely obvious. The lady recalls that back then in the store, he humiliated the wizards and insulted her, but she believes that he must have found out that the spell in Latiche was cast by Farron, and that Count Talcio was an overnight rich but short-sighted man, and therefore understands that he is a perfectly suitable victim for Susan. Jack looked and said that it seemed Her Highness the young Countess had a headache. She said she knew what would happen, but felt exhausted, and then thanked him for telling her in advance. The guy says that he is a capable assistant, and asks if this is true, and asks how they will proceed now. The man says they'd better avoid meeting people who work for the Count's family. She says she understands this, and therefore thinks she can continue to rely on him. The main character thought that she could still turn to their organization to solve some minor problems, because there was a high probability that if they did not find another way to stop her, they would have a very hard time. Madonna thought that she needed to calm down, because she had gone through a lot to return here, and besides, she had her loyal Farron. The Countess says that she will be grateful if he keeps her informed of events, and then says that if he needs more money, he should just say so. Jack states that he is grateful that my lady requires his help, and then leaves and wishes her a good day. The lady thought that when she communicated with people from the Striped Raven, she tried to behave as usual, but if she ran into Susan, she would have to be more careful, and believed that, in any case, she should first see Farron. Madonna came to the boy's door and asked if he was there. The boy apologized for keeping her waiting, and then asked if she still hadn't bandaged her finger. The main character says she's already forgotten about it, but he insists that's not right, and thinks the cut needs to be treated. The lady insists that everything is fine, but Farron suggests that she wait a minute and then bandages her finger and says that she can't do it anymore. The girl says that this will not happen again and thinks that it does not matter. The guy says that if something happens to my lady, he will protect her, even if he himself is wounded, and then claims that she can trust him. The main character thought that this is because he considers her his benefactor, and she invests her money in him based on cold calculation, and then asks what she can do for him. And it does not matter whether it requires money or something else. Farron asks if he can ask her for just one thing, and instead of calling her young Countess, he asks if he can call her by her first name. Hearing this, the lady thought that it was such a trifle, and if he wanted it so much, then he was not like Susan, and understood that she had made an agreement with him, so she had nothing to worry about. The Countess says that in public it will look wrong, but when they are alone, he can call her whatever he wants, and suggests calling her sister. Farron objects and says it's not worth it, because he doesn't want to be her brother. Hearing this, the protagonist doesn't understand that she said something wrong for him to react this way. Madonna believes that she should give him credit because she tried not to get close to him, but it seems that this still happened without his knowledge. The guy asks if he can just call her Lady Madonna, and wonders if that's too prim. She says he can just call her Madonna. And since he has a lot of work ahead of him, she suggests he try his best. Farron insists that's how it will be, but they don't say goodbye and asks if she's going anywhere. She says she came simply to tell him that they made a pact to never part. The boy asks Madonna to take care of him and says that he will definitely become a useful magician. The Countess says that now they will seriously take up his education and study of magic and asks if he is against it. The guy says that he will try his best not to let her down. The main character thought that, given the mental abilities that Farron had already demonstrated, and would definitely do more than was expected of him, and until Susan began to act thoroughly, she should nip her desire in the bud. In the original story, there were minor characters who helped Susan take over this country. Madonna believes she must find them and use them as a basis for installing Farron as ruler. 6 months later, the main character saw 2 reports, and the first was for Susan. About 6 months ago, the girl became Count Talcio's ward and moved into his house, and she is confidently on her way to becoming a true lady. Cavan spares no expense for his dear Susan, and the lady seems to have been keeping an eye on Farron, and as expected, she began studying magic. However, he believes that, other than that, no significant news has been received about her yet, and she's decided to keep a low profile. The Countess saw the second report of Snorri's actions, Lucesa. In the original story before Susan became Empress, there were 3 other main characters. Snorri, the accountant. Luces is an expert in magical research, and Portia is a master negotiator. Their skills are fully realized in their respective fields. They made a significant contribution to the empire's development until its collapse and the creation of a new country. Madonna thought that it was only natural that she would now make Snorri Farron's assistant, not Susan's. Snorri, the nobleman dispossessed of his title, was found fairly quickly. Portia and Blint commoners are hard to come by, but they're also somewhere nearby. The lady understands that the accountant, judging by the original, is not the most sociable person, and he will not believe her right away, and she thinks that it would be better to go see Farron. The man asks the young countess if she's arrived. The lady asks how he's doing. He replies that frankly, he has practically nothing to teach him. Madonna asks if this is enough for him, and the teacher claims that he is a genius, and the word monster describes him better. Luhan was the boy's magic teacher. He was born a wizard into a wealthy commoner family, but fortunately, his family didn't abandon him but supported him. Luhan, distinguished by his exceptional talents, dedicated his entire life to the study of magic. He was vain and possessed sufficient abilities to be the first to explore the generally rejected magical realm. Hearing this, the main character can't understand how such a person can say such things. Then she explains that he's still a child, so she asks him to keep an eye on him. The teacher says that he is proud that he had the opportunity to teach such a student in his life, and then says that that is enough for today. The Countess thanks him for his hard work. Farron asks Milady how she's doing. She replies that it will depend on today, then suggests he go wash up, change clothes, and have some tea together. Madonna reports that she heard that he has been studying very hard lately, and that the teachers are praising him. The guy says that it's because everyone loves him, but he still doesn't know a lot. The protagonist thought that, among other things, Farron was gifted and hardworking. A true genius. That's why she doesn't understand how Susan won in the original story. But she knows the original story doesn't tell the details of Farron's childhood. It only says that he went through many hardships and had a difficult life. But he didn't have the right conditions to develop his skills, and only had all the experience he could muster in survival. Unlike him, Susan received support from one of the most trustworthy families in the empire. A fatal difference between the two people. The Countess says that in any case, he must take care of his health. The boy asks her not to worry as he eats well and gets plenty of sleep. The main character thought about how a person feels when he has a child, or rather, based on his age, he is more like her younger brother. The lady says that the teacher said that with his magical skills, he could easily protect her. The guy reports that just recently he said that it was still too early and claims that now he has confirmed his abilities. Madonna reports that his teacher has given permission, and so they will soon be going somewhere. He asks if the place is dangerous. The lady informs that there may be too many new faces that will attract unnecessary attention, so she cannot take anyone with her for her protection except him. Farron tells her not to worry, as he can definitely protect her. The lady agrees, saying she'll trust him, and suggests they finish their tea. When the Countess stood up, the young man offered her his hand, but said something was wrong, and she, surprised, asked what was wrong. The boy explained that he simply wanted to accompany her as a gentleman. The lady realized that he had learned this in etiquette lessons, and said that he was still too short to hold her arm. When she looked at the guy, she asked in surprise if he had already grown taller. The boy says that he is still shorter than he would like, and then claims that he will grow even more. Madonna tells him not to worry, because when he grows up, he will be much taller than he is now. She looked at his palm and thought about what they say, that children with big palms will grow up tall, and over time they will see what he will become. Farron asks if he can accompany her when he grows up. She smiles and says, of course, and that he'll have to accompany not only her, but other young ladies his age as well. The guy says whatever, but he wants to become her cavalier as soon as possible. Hearing this, the main character thinks that he's saying this, but in the future, he'll fall in love with a beautiful girl, and she'll become queen, and that's still a long way off, so she can't fully imagine it. The Countess agrees with him, and says that then she will wait for the day when he becomes her gentleman. A few days later, the maid asks her mistress if she should bring her a dress. The lady offers to begin. The maid asks how she wants her hair styled. The Countess says no jewelry, and simply suggests braiding her hair and twisting it into a bun for a natural look. Hearing this, the maid does not understand whether she is doing everything correctly, and she wonders whether this can be called a calm, elegant style. The main character thought about how she wasn't planning on impressing anyone anyway. After all, today, they were going to a place frequented by ordinary citizens, and she felt her ordinary appearance would attract unwanted attention. The maid tells my lady that it is ready, and she, looking at herself in the mirror, says that it turned out very well. The maid asks if my lady is sure everything is all right. She replies that everything is wonderful, and they have all done a great job, then offers her a gift. The maid thanks milady and believes that she always gives them undeserved rewards, but hopes that she will rely on them in the future. Madonna says that next time she will need to dress up in something similar, and then she will contact them again. The maid says her friends who work for other noble families have told her that their mistresses envy Milady Rothenberg's beauty, and so she thinks the jewelry will further enhance her beauty. Another maid says their lady hasn't even made her public debut yet, and rumors are already being spread about her. The lady says she thinks they're praising her because they received a piece of jewelry as a gift. The maids claim that her lady doesn't notice their sincerity. The maid asks her mistress where she's going dressed like that. She replies that she's going to catch a big fish and therefore needs to scout out the fishing spot in advance. When the main character saw the boy, she said that he better put on a hat, and then said that they would go on a reconnaissance mission today, and that he had a memorable face. Farron reports that he thinks the young countess stands out more than he does. She claims to have prepared thoroughly. The guy says she's very beautiful, and everyone will notice her face. Hearing this, the main character thinks about how grown up this child has become, and then says he didn't receive any jewelry as a reward, but he praises her so much. Hearing this, the boy, surprised, asks what she's talking about and what jewelry. The lady explains that today she gave jewelry to the maids who helped her with her outfit, and they praised her to the skies with their flattery. Although she's completely pleased with her appearance, she considers such praise a bit excessive. Farron insists this isn't flattery, but the honest truth, and he's sure the maids were sincere too. He says he'll put on his hat and thinks my lady should cover her head too. The Countess says she knows she doesn't stand out in the eyes of other people, but she thinks it's better to be careful. Madonna tells the guy that from here they will go on foot, and the crew will wait for them nearby. The boy says that this is a city, and this is the place where Madonna hopes to find a man named Snorri. The lady says that's not true because the man isn't here. He then asks, surprised, why she came all the way to the suburbs. The Countess explains that they need to check a few things before meeting him. She then tells him that Choris is located near the capital and asks if he knows what the main industry is there. The guy says he heard that this place was built as a distribution network for cooperation with the capital, and therefore intermediary transactions and trading activities flourish there. Madonna reports that this is all true, and that there's even a special warehouse district there. Snorri, the man they want to meet, is the owner of the warehouse there. Farron asks if that's why she looks like a businesswoman. She replies that she's the owner of the company today and says they've arrived. He asks if she wants to go inside. The girl asks him if he thinks she'll ask him to break down the door with magic. The boy says that if that's what she wants, he can do it. The Countess says that it is not worth doing this, and then asks if he can use manifestation magic, and suggests simply showing her what is inside the warehouses, because she wants to check out some of the goods that are there. Farron used magic to show that the warehouses were empty. She said there was nothing left to see, and suggested they go back. The boy asked if those warehouses belonged to that man, Snorri. She replied that they did. The guy says that something is wrong with the goods missing from the warehouses, because as a rule, empty warehouses are not something out of the ordinary. And then he says that if the entries in the ledger were falsified, it would appear that the warehouses are full of goods. The lady says that will be a problem then. And she thinks about how all this time she's been inquiring about Snorri through the striped ravens, and this is what she's learned. Snorri's business had grown to quite a sizable size, and rumors had recently circulated that he was trying to sell it at a high price. She understood that this wasn't a problem, but the real problem was that he was organizing his ledger as if he were selling non-existent goods. The girl understands that this inflates the value of the enterprise, and if you look at the documents, it turns out that the warehouse is stocked with large jars of honey and will be sold at an inflated price. The defrauded buyers would be seething with anger, and Snorri, having snatched a fortune, would go on the run for 10 years. The protagonist thought she couldn't let him disappear like this. After all, she knew the tragedy that had unfolded during Snorri's absence would later destroy him. Medina realizes it would be a shame to lose such a gifted man with such an extraordinary mind. Then she tells the boy that today they saw a fishing spot, and tomorrow they'll encounter a big fish. The next day, the lady reports that Snorri's house is in the slums on the outskirts of the capital. When the guy looked at the boys, the lady asked if he regretted it. He replied that he thought he was lucky and considered it sad, because a person has limits to what they can protect. The Countess understands that the empire is currently failing to properly fulfill its role as a sovereign state, and the boy asks if, when what she calls a new era arrives, things will get any better. The lady claims that they must achieve this, and the magicians too, so that all people who have become outcasts can receive protection from the country. Farron says that then she will herald the beginning of this new era, but the lady insists that she is not a sorceress. The guy says that just because magicians gain recognition doesn't mean they'll stop needing other people, and believes that if she opens a new era, everyone will believe her and follow her. The main character thought that he was destined to become an emperor and open a new era, and then said that it would be a long story. The Countess said they had arrived at Snorri's house. Then she knocked on the door, and an elderly woman opened it and asked who they were. The lady explains that she has come to speak with Mr. Snorri about selling the business. The woman asks if she would like to see the owner, and then informs him that he is not home. The main character asks if they can wait for him inside, and the woman says that if that's the case, she suggests they go ahead and change seats. She says she'll bring them tea. The boy suggests that Mr. might not come home today. The girl counters, saying they'll talk soon. The woman brought tea and asked how long they'd been waiting. Medina said she thought they'd need another cup. The woman says that, as she said, the owner is not at home, and you can never guess when he will return. The lady asks if she will stop playing the fool, and then says that she came to talk to him, Mr. Snorri, or rather the former Viscountess Lucis. Hearing this, the woman says that she is not as stupid as she thought, and then asks what gave her away, and thinks that they could not even imagine that an elderly woman is the owner of the business. But she thinks that this is even better. The Viscountess tells them to stop pretending to be commoners, and calls the girl the precious heiress of the Rotenbergs. Hearing this, the main character asks in surprise whether she recognized her from the very beginning. The accountant says that she is a noble lady, and that no one treats an old woman like her with respect anymore. Medina says she doesn't think she should play the former Viscountess Lucis. She tells the lady she can call it whatever she wants, and do as she pleases, then reveals that she accidentally discovered she went to the warehouses yesterday, and therefore believes they managed to get inside and ask what they found. The girl says that the warehouses that were supposed to store the goods turned out to be empty, and asks if she had falsified the ledgers in order to sell them at the highest price. The protagonist claims the financial reporting stream was artificially compiled, but she found some discrepancies. When she inspected the warehouses, her suspicions were confirmed, and she used magic to verify their contents. The woman says that the young lady is a sorceress to her, which means that this boy used magic, and then asks if this is true, and if he is the young magician supported by the Rotenberg family. Luces says that she thought that patronizing magicians was just a strange hobby, but the lady definitely knows how to use other people. Medena dismisses this as nonsense and then asks Togo if they should get down to business. She appreciates his abilities, but says she's done with the idle chatter about buying and selling, and asks if she'd like to become part of their family. Hearing this, the woman smiled and then asked what if she didn't want this, and then said that if she wanted to live her life licking the feet of nobles, she would have done it earlier. The old woman says that she is not going to listen to an offer from a naive little girl who relies only on money in everything. The lady asks what if she tells her what she's aiming for. The woman asks what she plans to do with the money. Medena says that she was the head of the Luce's house, but her husband betrayed her, took all her property, and stripped her of her title, and then asks if she plans to take revenge on her husband. Upon hearing this, the woman was surprised, then smiled and said that she wanted to lecture her about the need to give up revenge and forgive her husband. The Countess says that this is not so, and there must be more effective methods for revenge, and this is what she wanted to say without getting her hands dirty, being in a position of superiority step by step. And she wonders if finishing him off would not be too magnanimous. The girl says that if she wants to finish him off, rather than use conventional weapons, she'd rather let him wither and die. Then she explains that she's experienced being trampled by those she trusted. The lady thought that while mourning her stupidity, she was faced with the fact that devotion and affection are worth nothing because she does not even know what exactly she experienced due to Susan's fault, and the truth lies in her heart. The main character wondered what she wanted to do after she'd achieved her revenge. She realized Farron was disappointed in her because she'd been so straightforward with her, and then she looked at the boy and realized he wasn't excited at all. Madonna says that she will help her take revenge, and she will not have to get her hands dirty, and therefore she said that she will not lick the feet of some noblewoman, and she does not demand submission from her, but offers her to support each other. The girl says that the woman got so high from the very bottom without anyone's help, and she admires her resourcefulness. Lutia asks if she'll start playing tricks in her house, and if she'll help her get revenge, she'll still be there. The girl says yes, and the woman says that neither verbal promises nor unsigned contracts can be trusted. The Countess says that if she wants, she can think about her proposal, and the woman asks what exactly they have prepared, and then suggests playing revolver roulette, and asks if they know the rules of the game. Lucia explains that a revolver's cylinder holds 6 bullets and is loaded with 1 bullet, and each player takes turns trying to shoot themselves in the head, and whoever shoots themselves loses. The guy was surprised to hear this, and then told his lady she couldn't go to that. The woman said he was a noisy child, but it would have been more fun with real bullets. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case today. The Viscountess says she'll have problems if the heiress of a noble family dies in it, then asks what if the cartridge is real. She says it's just a child's toy, and to survive in this field, you need to know how to bluff. Lucia asks if they are ready to take a risk, and if they win, then she, as she said, will become their obedient dog. But if she wins, then they will buy her the enterprise at the price she sets, and they will not bother her anymore. Hearing this, the protagonist thought that if she loses, she'll be duped by a fake company, and she wonders how justified this risk is to win over Snorri, who wants to disappear forever. The woman looked at the girl and said that she seemed confident in herself, and then asked what if she had told a lie and loaded the revolver with a real cartridge. Lucia says that they both risk losing, but she doesn't think she's foolish enough to commit suicide in such a situation. Then she says one more thing before they begin. Let the young mage turn to the wall, as he knows the manifestation spell will tell him where the cartridge is. Madonna agrees with the woman and offers to ensure that their bet does not involve magic, as she believes that events will develop quickly as the woman claims that the boy is not allowed to move or speak or otherwise communicate with her. The Countess tells the guy that she does not want to use magic in this bet, and therefore suggests that he not interfere, and he agrees. Snorri says that she hasn't played revolver roulette for so long that she's also a little worried, and then suggests that they start spinning the revolver, and whoever the barrel points at shoots first. After spinning the revolver, the woman suggests starting with the lady. The main character agrees, and at that moment thought that, in any case, the chances are 1/6. A few minutes later, she says that unfortunately it didn't work out, and tells the woman that it's now her turn. Lucia asks the lady how old she is. She replies that she is 17. Snorri says that it is very strange that even if she is not 20, she can feel the skills that were there even before she gave birth, and then says that this is not the appearance of a 17-year-old girl who simply matured early. Madonna asks if she has a hobby of wasting time on empty chatter, and the woman says that she is a girl with character, and then puts the gun to her head, and after a few minutes apologizes and says that it is the lady's turn again. After a few minutes, the lady says that there are only 2 left, and the chances are half and half, and if the lady is afraid, she can shoot first. The main character insists there's no need for that. Meanwhile, the woman thought that unfortunately for the lady, this game is her victory. Snorri was surprised because the revolver didn't fire, and the main character says that now there is only 1 cell left in the cylinder, and asks if this makes the difference between victory and defeat. The woman screams, saying it's unfair, and thinks the guy must have used magic. The boy explains that he was simply following the young countess's instructions, as she told him so, to ensure that magic wouldn't affect the outcome of the bet, and so he simply created the illusion. Snorri asks in surprise if he can use the nullification barrier at his age. The lady replies that it's because he's a good boy, and more importantly, that it's foolish to think a wager offered on someone else's battlefield would be fair. Naturally, she expected the lady to accept the magic. Madonna tells the woman that her husband betrayed her because she broke the law, and she hides the fact that she is a noblewoman and a magician, and then asks if this is true. Hearing this, Snorri smiled and said that it was a big secret. The countess says that when she was first shown how to shoot, she was assured that she would use the same cartridges, but during the game, the bombs were set to explode at a set time, and she claims that she is a magician, and this is the main key, and of course she expected that she would use magic. The woman says that she understands and believes that the 2 of them planned it all. The lady explains that she didn't say anything in advance, and simply trusted that Farron would understand what she meant with magic. At this time, the main character thought that the boy was already on the verge of telling the teacher that he had nothing to teach, and she was acting on luck because the boy might not understand her instructions, but thanks to him, they won this bet. Madonna asks if the bet will count, since she broke the rule against using magic from the start. The woman smiles and asks when she was last. This sad then explains that age has had a huge impact on her. "I think it's a good thing anyway," she says. Lucia kneels, and the lady asks in surprise what she's doing. The woman assures her that everything is fine, as she's following instructions, and this is her way of expressing her devotion. The girl says she doesn't like it. Snorri says it's as if she's become a girl again, and says that Selin Lucas is offering her old body to Medina. The main character says that she will help her with revenge, and calls her not the former Viscountess Lucas, and claims that until then she will be Viscountess Lucas, and then they shake hands. The woman tells the boy not to stare at her like that. After all, she was trying to choose a master in her own style. Farron reports that he has sworn to serve the young countess without such a process. The Viscountess claims that she is the countess's first subordinate, and therefore suggests that he not be so strict because they will be friends in the future. The main character tells the guy that from now on, he will have to cooperate with the former Viscountess Lucas. Farron was surprised. The countess thought that he, who would become emperor in the future, would recruit many mages starting with Saiyan, and she would become prime minister, and this woman would be the most valuable and talented person for Farron. The lady believes that it would be better to prepare for such a future immediately because she is the former Viscountess Lucas, and there is no need to sell her company now, and she will use it to move up. Sign asks if their family does anything. The girl replies that it doesn't seem to have anything to do with it, as there are things she wants to do herself. Medina knows that there are secrets and dark deeds that are happening under the personal control of the Rotenberg family. The woman says she's not a simple lady either. The girl says she'll take it as a compliment, and then announces that the superficial paperwork is hers, and the business will be under her name, Lucas. Scene says that sounds reasonable, and then asks if they have their own team. Medina replies that no, and she only provides nominal investments in the truly important role he will play Farron. The main character knows that the team of merchants Lucas will collapse the empire of Allard, and this will become the starting point for the creation of a new state, and the head of this organization is Farron. The young lady looked at the boy and thought about how he hadn't been feeling well since they'd been at the Seine. She assumed he was unhappy because she'd confided in the Viscountess without question. The girl understands that at such a young age she cannot burden him too much. However, if she does the general organization, it will take a year or so. And yet she was not dissatisfied with Farron's hard work. Medina turns to the boy and asks what makes him sad. And he says that there is nothing sad if it concerns her, and he wants to perform perfectly any mission that Medina gives him. The guy says he hates how quickly time spent with the lady slips away. She says that anyway, Lucas's former job was selling stocks, so he doesn't have to stress all day. The boy says that if he does everything one after another, he will have less time to spend with Medina, and when he thinks about it, he becomes sad. The main character says he's still a child too, and when he grows up a little, he won't want to be with her all the time. He counters claiming that, even when he grows up, he'll always want to be with her, and will always be by her side. Lady says that means he won't want to be the head of the company and asks about it. Farron insists that's not true, and that he wants to do everything he can to help her. But in reality, he'd rather be Medina's direct assistant. Hearing this, the girl was surprised, because she understood that this was the first time he had directly expressed his desire, and she understood that he was thinking about his own future, and she wondered if this was because his dream had been thwarted. The lady asks if he would like to join the assistants later, and says that it will be very difficult for him. Farron insists, it's best this way. The Countess says studies should come first, and therefore suggests they coordinate everything so that one doesn't outweigh the other. The girl suggests focusing on lessons, and once he learns to behave like a real shareholder, he'll start working as her assistant. He claims he'll become a master at his craft and will start working with Medina as soon as he can. The main character thought about, what if this concerns Farron? She is sure that he will keep his word, and even the teachers who taught him for only 6 months are surprised by the speed of his learning, and she knows how monstrous his abilities will become now that he has a goal. The Countess thought that she was looking forward to Farron growing up. At this time, Seine thought that she had chosen an unexpected path, but she was not so bad, and she would be busy from tomorrow's. Suddenly, the woman thought that it was strangely quiet, and this was a place where the poor gathered, and the soundproofing wasn't very good. And whether it was the shout of a drunkard or the cry of a child in the end, she should have heard them, at least the sound of water running through the drain. The woman thought about holding off on using it until her ex-husband stopped breathing, and then she took the revolver and went out into the hallway. She saw someone and asked who they were. Sion recognized the boy and said he was already playing at night. He explained that this wasn't a night game, but over time, she asked if this was apparently not in the young countess's instructions, and that the owner was dissatisfied with the old dog she hired. Farron says it doesn't matter, because there's something he wants to check. At this time, the lady thought that this was excellent magic, and the whole house was protected by a barrier installed by this guy. It was different from the nullifying barrier that the young man used today. The woman understands that if she uses the wrong fingers, she will be crushed by magic, and then asks what he wants to know. The guy says that he does not deny the choice of the young countess because she made her hers, and therefore he has no right to be dissatisfied, but at least he knows one thing. If she interferes in her affairs, and if she hands over the mistress, he will lower her into the depths of hell. At this time, the lady who was holding the revolver saw that it began to crumble, and the boy said that not only hers, but also anyone else's. Sion says in surprise that even during the day she thought he was normal, and says that the new owner is raising such a tiger cub and suggests not to look at her because she will not tell him about the young countess. The woman says they've been standing there for a while, and then asks if he'd like to come back for a cup of tea. He declines her offer, saying it looks like everything's already been delivered, so he thinks everything's fine. Sion tells her that if she was warned in advance, and he feels comfortable and satisfied, there's no need to be embarrassed when they work together, and then the boy suddenly disappears. The lady thought that this was a much more exciting job than she had expected, and she wanted to see how the master would bite the grown tiger cub on the neck. The woman knows this lady is about to usher in a new era, and she's certain the young countess will one day be one of the highest-ranking people in the world, heralding the fall of the Allard Empire and the rise of her own country. She understands this is a strange move, but she thinks it's a good one. Farron suggests the lady wake up, but she asks for a few more minutes. He insists it starts with a few minutes, and then a full hour. The boy says the maids called him because she was irritated. Hearing this, the girl smiles and says there's nothing she can do, but he wishes her good morning and asks if she wants breakfast, suggesting they hurry. Medena looked at the guy in surprise and said he was now taller than her. He said it seemed like a lot of time had passed, and he wanted to grow so tall that she would look up to him. The lady says she's happy, but she's still a little sad because her baby is already so big. Farron says he's not Medena's son, and suggests they stop talking and go wash up. The main character thought that a lot of time had passed since the day she brought the boy, and more than 2 years had already passed. The mother says they've been together for a long time. The main character explains that it's because her father often leaves home. The woman claims it's because she's managing on her own and can now completely leave the family business to her. Luciola believes that the boy is quite a good help to her as a partner, and he is young but already doing amazing things. Farron, who will soon turn 15 according to him, has completely mastered the program, extracting information with extraordinary speed while working as Lucas's boss, and not long ago, he began working for her. The daughter tells her mother that she too thinks she's wearing too much. The woman agrees and suggests she think about it for a bit, then announces that she'll be staying in the capital for a while, starting today. Mother says she thinks she's been indifferent to her all this time and hasn't noticed when the time came for her debut. Then she asks if the young lady is interested. Medena says that even if he's interested, the woman insists that she'll be 20 next year and therefore feels she needs to finally prove herself by then. The Countess says that although there are women leaders in the estate, the highest circles in the empire are still very conservative, and the fact that a young girl from a noble family is making her debut is as if it were tantamount to bride trading. The main character reflected that even before her return, she was not interested in marriage or dating and wanted to appear alone. The Countess says that no matter how careless she is, her daughter's appearance in society is the most important thing, and she wants to choose a good match for her because she has been waiting for this for so long. Medena says that if this is what she wanted, she will follow her. The main character thought that preparing for the debut would take a lot of time, but she believes that Suzanne is still fine, and she is not yet old enough to go out in public, so she understands that there is no reason to worry about her. The lady understands that, of course, she cannot reassure herself that everything is fine, because 2 people have not been found recently, and there are still no results, and she believes that these 2 who became Suzanne's employees, along with Sane, and the whereabouts of Blint and Portia, are still unknown. The girl understands that there are no documents about Blint's past, and she knows that Portia is in captivity, but she doesn't know where she believes it won't be easy to find them, based on their names and this scant information. Medena thought that she would be strong, and that this was of great importance, especially if they were on Suzanne's side, and therefore she had to find them. The main character reflects on the fact that a lot of time has passed since she saw Jack in person, and therefore asks him to come in his free time, and then writes a letter. The lady thought that in addition to her debut, she wants Farron's to be excellent too, because he still has 3 years to fully recover as an adult, and when he becomes an adult, she became interested in whether the guy will be the one she knew, and therefore is waiting impatiently. The Countess thought that if he grew up too quickly, she might be disappointed, but she caught herself thinking that these were parental preferences. At this time, Susan asks the maids if they can move the chairs, and says that perhaps she needs some iced tea. The maid asks the young lady if she has any wishes, and she replies that everything is perfect, and then asks if the Count will praise her if he sees this. The maid assures that of course he will praise her, and then asks if she could turn around for a second, because her ribbon has come untied. The maid says she hopes Lady Susanna will come of age soon. She also reports that the Count said that, when the lady makes her debut, she will be the most beautiful person in all of high society. Having heard this, the girl says that the Count is so funny, and thinks that it is illogical, and then says that there are rumors that the heiress of the Rotenberg family is beautiful. The maid says that her beauty cannot compare with the beauty of Lady Susanna. The girl asks if they are talking about the young Countess Rothenburg, since her debut should be soon. The maid replies that this is true, and even after becoming an adult and postponing her debut for so long, she wants to make it now. The lady says everything is clear to her, and when she sees the Count, she orders everything to be prepared. Kavan asks the girl what happened, and then says that today the weather is wonderful. As always, she replies that everything is fine. The Count says that he sees that something bad has disturbed their beauty, and then says that he will be serious about it and offers to tell him. Susan explains that this isn't the case, and that she's the person who helped her friend from the orphanage. He asks, surprised, if she's referring to the young Countess Rothenburg, and inquires about her. The lady reports that she heard that she would soon be debuting, and when this news reached her, everything seemed to remain in order, but old memories came flooding back. The Count smiled and said that there was no point in worrying about who had been tormenting her, since he believed that she had been cruelly caught by a woman as cunning as a fox and dangerous as a viper. Susan reports that rumors say the young countess is very beautiful and kind, and after her debut, she will be noticed in high circles. Then she says she's a wonderful woman and wonders if the Count might have misunderstood her. Hearing this, Kavan screams and tells the girl not to blindly believe what others say. He then explains that he understands why she brought this up, as everyone talks about her like enchanted idiots, and doesn't know the real face of this vixen. The Count says that he has a good idea, and that balls intended for debutantes happen rarely. He believes that if the lady is preparing for her debut now, then perhaps she is already deciding which ball to attend, and he will take advantage of this and tell the young lady that she has nothing to worry about. Kavanagh informs her that he will give her instructions later, and that the tea party was wonderful. Meanwhile, in the temporary management base, Lucas Farron asks how the purchase of Elihar Khan is going. The woman says that the supplies are ready, and there are no problems with warehouse security. Elihar Khan is a lightweight and durable mineral, primarily used in the crafting of armor and weapons. However, it is currently also used for other purposes, such as simple ornamentation. The head of the Rothenburg family recently discovered a mine that produces high-quality pink beryl. The young countess is secretly collaborating with a jewelry firm located on Artisan Street. She plans to launch a new line of accessories using the mined materials. However, the Rothenburg family, which does not involve the military sector, understands that if you do not buy Elihar Khan, you could come under increased scrutiny, and the head of the Lucas family purchased it as an authorized person. Sign reports that they plan to transfer it to the Rothenburgs through intermediaries. Then she says that the minerals used in armor and weapons have now become equivalent to gold and silver. She finds the young countess's gaze remarkable. The woman says that the color of these decorations is bright and rich, and this makes them beautiful, and she believes that she did not use them because of the stereotype that they are needed only for military purposes. Farron reports that the trading price of Elihar Khan is rather odd, as supplies have increased due to its being mined in large quantities under the lake in the Kingdom of Logia. The lady explains that the real price did not fall due to collusion between Elihar Khan suppliers. The guy says that this conspiracy will not last long, and part of the sales department's job is to set up such cases. Scene understands that their reputation has been damaged, and she believes that it will be difficult to find new suppliers, as she cannot even use their contacts, because it is difficult to connect with them through the Rothenburg family. The boy asks the young countess if she's said anything about this. The woman suggests he stick to his guns and leave the matter to them, since she was also considering hiring new capable people. Farron says she said the problem is that new organizations are joining much faster. Sayan, surprised, says the integration process is indeed difficult for existing organizations. The guy says that he still thinks that this is the best option for now, and asks to look for a union of candidates, mainly in places where sales are difficult to carry out. The lady reports that this matter has not yet been decided, as it concerns construction for the Lucas senior management. She says that Lucas's senior management recently prepared to hire more staff and move to another location. Not far from the estate of Count Rothenburg, he bought an abandoned building at a reasonable price, and it was planned that it would be renovated for the needs of the administration. But a strange problem with the residents of this building arose due to the descendants of the Logel League. Sign says they are a small people brought into the empire through war. Because of their unusual origins, they are rejected and despised. Despite instances of discrimination against them, the empire ignores them. A lot of time has passed since those wars. They are also subjects born in the empire, and the woman says that she doesn't care if the government finishes them off, because she understands that they cannot remove them from there. Farron reports that it is impossible for the young countess to allow such a thing, and believes that they are not so bad as to deserve death. The lady explains that she means it's strange, and as if the timing was perfect. He asks if she means the time the Laugals arrived. Sian says that of course, before purchasing the building, she checked the surrounding area, and there was no one there at the time. But after the deal, she moved in there before the start of the reconstruction. The guy says that it would be nice if he could meet the head of the Laugal gang in person. The woman, surprised, asks if they should meet and negotiate, suggesting that if that doesn't work, the other option is to leave the building. He explains that he'd like to avoid that, because it all seems like a misunderstanding. Hearing this, the lady thought that, in any case, he wanted to present himself to the young countess in the best possible light, just like a little dog. And he said he agreed with what she said, because he believed they must have had a purpose for settling in this particular building, and they must find the root of the problem. Sian says she understands and suggests they set up a meeting. He asks her to do so, and he'll go alone. The woman says it's funny to see a boy her age talking to a countess and a child who is absolutely perfect in every way. Then she asks when the master will understand. The maid asks her mistress what she thinks of it. She replies that silk satin is beautiful, but not elegant enough. The maid says it can be used as a cape. The lady wondered if she could be shown embroidery patterns. It occurred to me that she wasn't particularly interested in making her debut, but as a family member, she should be careful when choosing a dress. The maid asks which of these colors she likes best, and would like to see how they will look on her. Medena saw the guy and invites him to come in, then says that he is like that, but she does not judge him, and then asks if he wanted to stop her. Farron reports that the mistress always dresses in dark colors when he's not around. She says the main color is white anyway, and thinks everything is fine. The guy agrees with her and says that he will look good with Medena's hair, and she will also wear pink diamond jewelry, and he really can't wait to see her. At this time, the main character thought that sewing a custom-made dress is a common thing. But this guy looks at her so seriously, and it's time to rebel, and she understands that he is still in adolescence and has not changed much. The lady assumes she's been thinking about it when she mentioned the pink diamond, and then asks how Eliharkon's purchases and deliveries are going. He replies that she has nothing to worry about, as he'll be reporting soon. Or the lady says he's doing well, and then explains that she was just asking. The young lady says she's always believed in him. The boy asks if she's chosen a partner for her debut yet. Medena says that she is still getting ready and has not chosen a partner, and then says that her mother will choose an escort for her. Farron says that he would like to be a lady's partner, and says that he knows that it is difficult, but age is age. But he thinks that the problem is status. Despite abilities and talents, human values are based on status and birthmarks. And the lady says that in any case, this is a simple formality, and she is looking forward to his debut with more impatience than her own. The guy says that he finally wants to become an adult because she always treats him like a child. The main character says that he is really young, and he touches her hand and kisses it, and then says that he will send her a report as soon as she finishes with tea. At this time, Mom comes into the room and asks if they were both there, and also asks if she disturbed them. The girl asks what she means and what's wrong. Lucilla says she heard her daughter choosing fabric, and then asks if she can borrow the guy for a while. Medena says she can take him for as long as she needs, and his mother thanks him and says they won't be long. Farron tells the young countess that he will return. At this point, she thinks about how her mother has always kept quiet about Lucas's work, and she thinks she should ask Farron about it later. The young man asks the countess if she has a task for him. The lady says he's grown a lot, and is now even taller than her, and then tells him that Medena works as the head of the Rotenberg family, and that he also has his own business, and maybe she can help out a little. The lady says that she is confident that she will cope with her job, since her daughter is now an adult. The countess tells the boy that Medena's debut will take place quite late, and usually it should happen when the girl is just becoming an adult. Farron reports that the young countess doesn't seem interested. Hearing this, the woman smiles and agrees, saying that's true, because she believes succession is too much, and now she's making her debut too. She too felt the pressure when she was young. Luciola says that the debut is the first step towards marriage, and believes that her daughter is already old enough to think about marriage. A woman tells a boy that he'll grow up in a couple of years, and that's what she wants to talk about his growing up. The woman says she wants to tell a story that happened about 20 years ago. She had a friend named Ruth. Ruth was the heir of a viscount, and the culture of sponsorship wasn't yet so popular, but it still existed. Ruth didn't like it. He despised owning people as ornaments, and one day he met a girl who had been thrown out onto the street. Enraged by this situation, Ruth took her in and used a sponsorship system to support her. The woman says it would have been a good story if it had ended there. The Countess explains that unfortunately, a feeling of attraction flared up between two people of the same age. They had feelings for each other, but a wall of status separated them. After a long time, Ruth took the plunge and asked the girl if she wanted to be his mistress. When she heard Ruth's words, her world collapsed, and she disappeared, and the two have never seen each other since. Farron says he understands. And Luciola thinks that maybe she acted wisely, and that if she had agreed to such and such, it would have led to a sadder ending. Then she asks if that would have been a happier ending, and sometimes she thinks about that. The Countess says it's hard to suppress emotions, but when she's done with the memories, she asks if there was a way to build a future where they both would be happy. The lady turns to the guy and says that she hopes that this stupid story served as a lesson to him. Farron says that he understands her concerns, and then assures her that he will never hurt her daughter. And he promises this. Luciola tells the guy to tell her daughter that she asked him about his job. Then she says that this doesn't mean he needs to let go of his feelings, and suggests that he not get too upset. Farron thought about what this must be about the Countess's past, and he replayed it in his head again, deciding that this was actually good advice. He realized that the Countess knew how he felt, but he couldn't understand why Medina didn't know, and he couldn't even imagine belonging to the system of rules. The guy believes that the right moment will come when all this will collapse and leave nothing behind. Farron tells the lady that he is back, and she asks what her mother asked. The boy explains that Lucas's work is about her, and she knows he does most of it. The girl says she knew that, and her mother knows, and then asks if anything upset him. The guy replies that she advised him to look after Medina, and therefore assures her that she has nothing to worry about. At this point, the main character thought that her mother was honest, and that she should have scolded her first, not Farron. He says the Countess is worried about all her affairs, and about preparing for her daughter's debut. The lady asks if he'd like to review the case before making a new schedule, and at that moment, she thinks that if something really does happen, her mother will tell her, and she believes there are many other important things to do first. Farron tells the woman that there is only one person there with the manager, and they seem very concerned about whether they will use force. Scene says she'd like to talk quietly somewhere else, but he declines. The guy says he has no intention of going back, and believes he can handle any situation on his own. At this time, a young man approaches them and asks if they have arrived yet. Cyan looked at the boy and said that his eyes were the color of the sky, and it seemed that among Legel's people, there were some of mixed race. Then she asked if this young man was today's representative. The stranger informs them that in addition to being the main representative, he's also the one who's come to talk to them. The woman thinks it's unlikely they'll be talking like this, as her neck isn't very comfortable. He suggests entering through the front door. Cyan asks the guy if he finds this odd. Farron says they came together, and even Laugel left a minimum of people in the buildings. The representative looked at the guy and thought that this man was a magician of a fairly high level, and then thanked him for the fact that they had come to such distant lands. The Viscountess says she is also pleased to meet you, and gives her name as St. Lucas Lane, informs him that she is the owner of the Lucas Company. She explains that she brought this guy as an escort, and therefore advises him not to worry. The representative says his name is Blint, and then suggests getting down to business. He says, the woman says she knows he and his friends want to settle there, and then announces that the building belongs to them. The guy says that's probably a good thing, and that he really wanted to talk to the boss, but then asks why he didn't even show his face, since he thinks this boy definitely plays a leadership role. The young man explains that he means the lady who pays their managers, and then he closes his magic circle and says that it was dangerous. The lady, surprised, says he's a wizard. Farron asks what his purpose is, and then says his life depends on the answer. Hearing this, the guy smiled and asked if he would do it that easily, and wondered if he wanted to stain his hands with blood without his master's permission. The guy says he only wants one thing, and that is to meet his real owner. The woman says she understands, and then says it will be difficult to figure out who owns them. Farron punched the guy, and he fell to the floor. Blinn says the Imperials didn't even treat their barbarians like dogs, and says that no matter how important the information, they speak of it in a casual tone, and then suggests they calm down. The young man says that first of all, it is an act of power to make a decision without his superiors, and at that time, he thought that he cannot finish him off without Medina's permission because of the blood contract, and believes that this will most likely be assessed as a betrayal. After all, it is her choice. Scene calms the boys down and says that's enough, and if they touch the master in front of her young boss, it'll be difficult for her to stop him. The guy suggests telling them the real reason they called them. Blint explains that this is the pure truth, and he only wants to see their owner, regardless of whether they meet or not. But the parties decide everything. The lady suggests they both calm down, and then asks how much longer they'll bother her. The guy says there's nothing better than being angry, then rearranges the furniture and says that if you give in to your bestial nature, the reward only increases. Cian says that she knows what he wants to say, and first suggests letting the owner speak. The representative reports that the woman speaks much more pleasantly than the boy. She explains that she won't get anything if he doesn't listen to her, then says that provocation counts first and foremost, and believes that one should get what one deserves. Cian says that if he needs medical expenses, he should contact Lucas's management. The representative says that the next round is starting now, and then throws coins and asks whether they will win or lose. The guy explains that, as stated above, this problem is related to the purchase of the building, and therefore apologizes for not reporting it in advance. The Countess says that everything is fine, and she will forgive this mistake, and then asks the young man's name, and reminds him that he seemed to say that his name was Blint. A talented wizard, Blint is an unpredictable person who can even put his own life on the line, and this is very similar to him, but his peculiarity lies elsewhere. The young man claims he's a mixed-race man because it's obvious from his appearance. In the original blind, has blue eyes and wheat-colored hair. The main character realizes that, judging by rumors, he looks like a commoner and shares his name and appearance. Susan tells him she needs to meet him. Hearing this, the guy, surprised, asks if she wants to meet him. Sign asks if everything will be okay since he didn't mention her name. He then says he may just be testing the waters because he doesn't have any definitive information and thinks he may have used the word lady, but it's quite possible he's already revealed her identity. The woman says that if this was his goal, then she has no other choice. The main character says that perhaps he needs the Countess's patronage, and therefore she will go to meet him because she believes that he does not intend to hide it. And if they think that something is wrong, she offers to let him think it over again. Cian smiled and said that their young Countess was persistent, and therefore she would try to agree on the time and place of the meeting. Medina says that if he attacked Farron and attacked him first, then asks where the guy hurts. Farron claims he's fine, and then explains that the boy didn't attack first. The girl asks what he did to him. Then, as she believes a nice guy like him couldn't do something like that, the lady suggests that he remember that he can tell her everything without concealment, and then says that she will protect him no matter what. Farron objects and says that's not true, then explains that it was also his fault, and therefore suggests not to worry. The girl asserts that he can rely on her if he's hurt. The woman says that she now understands what the manager and assistant's idea is. The young Countess asks the woman if she has a cold. Sin assures her she's fine, and explains that she feels it every time that they're both special, and then informs her that she must go, and from now on will do everything to avoid causing trouble. Medina says no one expected this, and she always handles things well. The woman says she's flattered, and suggests discussing the rest with the head of the estate. The main character turns to the guy and says that maybe it's not that important, and then asks if he will help her when she meets the blind. Medina asks Farron if he doesn't like that she decided to meet with him. He replies that he didn't like it, and she asks why, then says that she won't let anyone touch him. Farron says that instead of retreating, she invests in specialists. And this happened when she hired director Sane. And then she says that she has an unusual preference and asks why she collects all these eccentrics. The girl explains that she thinks they can do something that requires a lot of courage and asks if he likes it. And then she thinks that if this is the same Blintz, she would want him to be close to Farron. But she believes that whether they like it or not, she must meet their Blintz. The man with red hair looked at the letter and said that everything was fine and going according to plan. The lady apologizes and then reveals that she is Susan. The Count invites the girl in, but when he sees her with a cart, he offers to let her do the servant's work and then asks what happened. The girl says she wants to do it, and he says she's so good that he's even proud of her. The little girl says that she came and then asks if he wanted to tell her something. The man says that this is a business meeting where a reception will take place, but he cannot attend it, and therefore suggests that the girl not worry, since he believes that she will still have time to get tired of all this when she becomes an adult. The Count says that the real purpose of the reception is to disgrace the fox Rodenherg. Susan asks, surprised how to embarrass him. He asks if she said she was making her debut soon, and then explains that there will be a lot of people at the reception, so he sent out invitations to various families. Kavanaugh claims that he treated everyone with dignity despite their status, and everyone responded positively. According to the laws of the Empire, one must debut at a reception organized by another person. If one organizes it oneself, then all the children of the family must debut at once, and this was done because the luxury of the aristocrats had become excessive. The Count explains that it's common practice to request an invitation to a reception organized by someone else. However, such receptions are often combined with a debut, and it's common for everyone to organize it together. Kavanaugh announces that he's taken on the role of hosting the reception and therefore believes everyone will stay away from the vixen Rotenberg, and he'll make her regret refusing to talk about his marriage. The Count says that now this girl has been left without attention and is making her debut alone, and therefore believes that she will have no choice but to postpone her already late debut, and assumes that otherwise it will be a complete failure. Susan Surprise says that a debut happens once in a lifetime, and therefore she feels very sorry for this countess and asks to be more lenient. The man tells the girl that he knows she is kind, but thinks it is still not enough to make a laughingstock of her. Susanna apologizes and explains that she was rude. The Count says that he wants to do everything possible to put this fox in her place, and he's really looking forward to it. At this time, Jack arrived to see the Countess. She said they hadn't seen each other for a long time, and the man asked if she was going to the reception that night. So beautiful. Medina says that's not all, as she was trying to choose jewelry. Jack says it's easier to go crazy than to decide, and he thinks there will be a stir because of the young Countess's debut. The girl, surprised, asks what he's talking about. The man explains that new information has come in today, that her debut will be a complete failure because he's on the verge of ruin in high society. The Countess, surprised, asks what he means. He asks if she wants to throw a party to celebrate her debut, then explains that Count Kavanaugh Talzio is having a much larger party soon, but it will be in honor of his business or something. Medina says she knows and had no intention of visiting. Jack says she's so impatient, but he's only just started, and then reveals that once the Count announced his plans, he sent the invitation somewhat hastily. The problem is, he sent it to every house where the children were planning their debut, and to all but the Rothenberg house. The leader of the Striped Crow is surprised, and says that she doesn't look too shocked and therefore it's unexpected for him. The lady wonders what there is to be surprised about, as she feels sorry for having spent money on something so useless. Medina says that, to be honest, she is a very unusual lady, and then says that he does not care what people with old-fashioned warnings say, because since she became Farron's patron, she has heard a lot of gossip about herself, and therefore it does not matter to her if other nobles laugh behind her back. The Countess understands that there will be problems if Earl Cavan was one of those who planned this, and believes that Susan has gone into hiding, but she is unlikely to miss the opportunity to torment her. The girl says that all she knows about his plans now is that she can't leave things as they are. The guy says that's very typical of her, and then asks if she knew that many people call her a fox. Medina reports that it's more elegant than she expected. Jack smiles and says, no one can stand up to her. The girl suggests he stop laughing and take the box, and he asks in surprise what's inside. The main character tells him that there is a bonus inside, and then opens the box and shows him ancient gold coins and invites him to share them with the rest of his team, since she believes that they have also worked hard. Jack says he doesn't even know what he could do in return for her generosity, and the lady says she hopes he will continue to help her. Medina asks, what about the investigation about Blind and Portia that she ordered? And then reports that Raugel, who was harassing the trading company, suddenly came across the name Blind, and then asks what he knows about it. The leader of the Striped Raven says that they are very withdrawn, and that is why he cannot even find out their names. The girl informs him that the blind man she's looking for isn't a half-breed, says she understands, and suggests continuing the investigation. The man says he'll continue, of course, but then asks how he can complain after such a generous bonus. Jack tells the lady that he hopes she will work with them a lot in the future, and then leaves. The main character thought that Jack does not have the character that will allow him to brush off the things that he missed during the investigation, and she thinks that he is upset because of the unsuccessful search, but she assumes that maybe he has another plan, and she is interested in what the truth will be. Blint tells Jack that he is late, and the guy with green hair explains that he had to submit a report. Blint asks if he bought any alcohol, and then informs him that they only have snacks left. Jack insists he didn't ask him to bring him alcohol on the way back, and then gives him gold coins explaining that the client gave them as a bonus. The guy with black hair asks if he means the owner of this building. Jack explains that this is generally for members of their organization, and says that he is united with them, and then asks if he has made a decision. The leader of the Striped Raven states that he knows that Blint is hiding his intentions because he does not know what Lady Medina is after, and then asks if he thinks it would be a good idea to tell her now. Jack thinks she's simply trying to win him over to her side, just like she did with the former Viscountess Lucas. The black-haired guy says that seems to be the case, and Jack asks why he keeps teasing them. Blint claims that he should ask him, and then asks if he is the ideal subordinate for the young mistress. The guy with green hair says that he is the most honest business partner in the area, and then suggests that he remember not to disrespect Lady Medina too much, because otherwise he will be dead. Blint tells him not to worry, because he has already been bitten by the crazy dog from that house. Hearing this, Jack smiled and suggested he take good care of himself, because he wouldn't always be able to help him, so he hoped he'd still be in one piece when they met. The guy, however, suggested he take better care of himself. On the day of the meeting, the maid tells the mistress that her guest has arrived and asks whether she should see him out. Sine thought that his efforts to remain calm were commendable, but she felt that the young master still looked angry, and Lady Medina was completely indifferent to his feelings. Blint tells the lady he's glad to meet her. She thinks he must be tired from the journey, but then she realizes he looks much better than she expected and offers to sit down. The guest says he is grateful for such a warm welcome, despite the fact that he illegally appropriated her private property. Hearing this, the main character looked at the guy and thought that his manner of speech and the impression he made were exactly the same as Blind's from the original story. Medina asks if he's met these two before. The guy says he has, but he's afraid he was a little rude to them the last time they met. The young woman suggests discussing the situation after the meal. After a while, she says she hopes they enjoyed the meal and suggests they talk business. The Countess asks if he has any idea why she waited and didn't immediately throw him out of the estate. The guy says that it is probably because she found herself in a difficult situation if they found out about the connection between the trading company and the Rotenberg family, since the official head of the trading company is the former Viscountess Lucas. Blint believes that they would not have been able to openly introduce troops into the Rotenberg house, but he believes that this would not be necessary if the little magician took matters into his own hands. The lady says that she would not have given Farron such an order, but Blint thinks that apparently she is not indifferent to him. Medina slammed her palm on the table and said that she would be honest since she agreed to this meeting, because she was interested in him. The guest says he's so flattered he doesn't even know how to act, and the woman says she's sure they already know enough about her. The Countess says Lucas's trading company is experiencing a talent shortage and needs people who know their business, and she also admires his straightforwardness. She says she wanted to praise his information-gathering skills and the initiative of the Rogel tribe. The main character says that ultimately, she wants to hire him and his people at the Lucas Trading Company. She also thought about hiring his fellow tribesmen, as she believes this will solve their staffing shortage problem. Cyan thought that she definitely liked the way she was thinking, and the guy said that he didn't expect such a proposal because he believed that they, the barbarians, were no better than dogs and untouchable. Medena says that a person's origin does not influence their talents in any other way, and finds it amazing how he skillfully took advantage of the current situation and created an advantage for himself. Blint says that she flatters him, and he is glad that she thinks so highly of them. The lady asks if he accepts her offer, and at that time, she thought that the Rogel tribe always had difficulty finding the means to survive, and her offer should be very tempting to him. She believes that this deal will be beneficial to both of them. Blint asks how far her mercy extends, as he believes that her offer is truly generous for the barbarians who must be finished off without a second thought, and then asks how to deal with the barbarians living in other regions. The guy explains that in this city alone, there are at least 10,000 of them, and dozens of times more are scattered throughout the country, and he understands that when rumors about this deal begin to spread, many will try to attract her attention. Blint asks if she will finish them off when she gets tired of putting up with their antics. Hearing this, Farron couldn't stand it any longer and got up from the table, then declared that he was a bastard. The girl reassured him, saying everything was fine. At this point, she couldn't understand why he was acting so provocatively, but assumed he was testing her. The main character believes that, even though he looks different, he is definitely the same blind man from the novel. And probably because she acted contrary to the plot, something changed. Medena announces her intention to welcome them as well. She then explains that under her leadership, she plans to expand the influence of the Lucas Trading Company to a national level, and would appreciate the opportunity to manage talented people from different regions. Upon hearing this, the guy says it's very generous of her. The woman explains that these are the investment rules at Rotenberg Maternity Hospital, and they invest in any profitable venture without the slightest hesitation. Blint asks if she views the barbarians, who are considered trash, as potential assets. Aleida replies that she does, because she believes they are strong in unity as no one will protect them. And she always repays kindness with kindness. The lady says she's heard that all the traveling merchants belong to the Rogel tribe, meaning they're well aware of everything that's going on. She understands that the Rogel have mage blood in their veins, and if Farron becomes emperor of the coming age of magecraft, he'll need strong allies. Medena announces that she intends to hire all of their tribesmen, and therefore does not hesitate to invest in them. Blint asks if she's doing this so they can become her watchdogs. She objects and says absolutely not, then explains that she doesn't want them to worship her or obey her unquestioningly, as they will only cooperate for their mutual benefit. The main character asks if this is not the outcome they were hoping for when they came here. Blint smiled and said that he admits defeat, and then said that she is an extremely eccentric aristocrat who wants to sponsor a magician and hire all of his fellow tribesmen, and says that the Rogel tribe will follow her. The Countess asks if the outcome of the negotiations met his expectations. He says he'll inform his men as soon as he gets there and believes they'll soon follow her orders. The lady says it's intentional, but she wants to see them join their ranks as soon as possible. He says he's afraid things aren't that simple, and the lady, surprised, asks why he thinks that. The guy explains that he intends to act only as a middleman in this deal. The girl objects, saying that won't do, because for her, he's the main investment in this business, and therefore she'll accept any salary he sets to make him her partner. Blint announces that he has one more condition to ask, and he hopes she will grant it. He asks her to sponsor him instead of that red-eyed young man, and then asks what she has to say about it. Cyan heard this, threw the cup on the floor, and then apologized and explained that she didn't mean to, and then asked if these were his terms of cooperations. Blint says that it can be said that way, and the lady says that in that case she can give him an answer right now. The guy says he'll probably find out her decision another time. The lady says she hopes he understands that he's being downright rude right now. Blint apologizes. After all, he's just an uneducated barbarian, and then asks if she'll understand. He leaves asking for her forgiveness. He also thanks her for her hospitality and invites her to meet him at her debut. The woman, surprised, says that the lady doesn't like eccentric personalities. The main character objects and says that's not true since she likes Farron and he's a good boy. Then she asks if she really seems so soft and weak that she allows herself to be mocked right from the start. Scene smiled and assured the lady that this was not the case, since she did not want her to be soft, since she could not recognize a master who simply gave in to the old woman's mockery. Medene became curious about what kind of answer Blint was expecting, and then announced that it was time for them to go too. Suddenly, the main character saw a gold coin on the table, and the woman asked in surprise why he left this coin. The lady says that perhaps this is his payment for dinner, and thought that she gave this gold to the striped raven. And now she understands that he manages to confuse her, but she thinks that this only makes it more interesting. The girl asks Farron if he is okay, and then says that just in case she wants to clarify, that she will not accept Blint's condition, because she is sure that he does not need her patronage. The guy asks if she's angry. Medina replies that she's not angry and that she wasn't expecting much, so everything's fine. Cian doesn't understand how she can change her mood so quickly, and the guy says that in that case, he won't worry about it either. The main character thought that in recent days, Farron had been avoiding her, but at the same time, he said that everything was fine with him, and she understood what was going on, because she was so confused that she asked Snore about him. The Viscountess says that if he's fine, then that's how it is, and then asserts that she doesn't want to interfere in other people's affairs, meaning it would be wrong for an old lady like her to interfere in such matters. She was trying to hide her own displeasure this way. Medena understands that he is too young to complain to others, and that if there were more sincerity between them, then perhaps these are the difficulties of raising children during adolescence. Mother reports that the Imperial Guard has already been notified of their arrival, and therefore they can leave at any moment. As the main character walked, she thought that this was the hallmark of the rotten imperial family of Arlo. After all, they used taxpayers' money to buy up every luxury good imaginable without caring about the people. Medena knew that precious stones were laid in the castle's foundations as a symbol of the empire's power. However, she is forced to temporarily put aside her personal disgust with the imperial family. As today, she is obliged to fulfill her duty as a member of the trading company. The gentleman invites the ladies to sit down and tells the Countess that they haven't seen each other for a long time. Marquise Rilsan says she is glad to see them, and then asks when Medina managed to grow so much. Luciola agrees with her and says that time is running too fast, but she believes that she still has a lot to learn and asks to be lenient with her. The Marquise says she's finally glad to see the young Countess. The protagonist says she's flattered, but then she thinks about how Marquises don't usually have private chambers in the palace, and she knows that Sevia isn't just any Marquise. Railsan is known as the Emperor's Lady, and as the drama queen of the Imperial Palace, she rules the roost. And like most noblewomen, who were commoners, she married to enhance her social status. The Marquise reminds them that they said that Medina is old enough, and then says that rumors about her debut in high society have not yet reached her, and asks what the young lady will say. Luciola thought that she should already know about her daughter's upcoming debut, but she still checks them and gets them to admit that due to Count Talcio's plans, Medina's reputation has been ruined. The Countess explains that they plan to share news of this matter with her a little later. The Marchioness says she will be waiting impatiently. Mother says that before they move on to such a boring topic, she would like to show her the jewelry she asked for. The young lady opened the case containing the jewelry, and the Marquise said it was wonderful, very beautiful, and much better quality than she expected. She then added that she knew they had good taste, and considered these to be true masterpieces, confident they would set a new trend. The Countess said she felt the stones were honored by her attention and recognition of their value. Hearing this, the Marquise smiled and said her mistress was embarrassing her. Luciola reports that in this case, she believes that she will pick up all the ordered jewelry. The Marquise agrees with her and then says that she has seen many decorations from other trading companies, but they are not even close to what the Rotenberg Company offers. The Countess says she's being flattering, and then reveals that all these decorations are Medina's work and that her daughter has a talent for jewelry. She asks if the lady remembers the Canary series. The Marquise says she remembers it, of course, because it's a legendary limited edition that sold out instantly, and Mother explains that this series was made by her Medina. Relson says with surprise that this lady has incredible talent, and she will look forward to the next works and will definitely become her regular client. Medina thanked the lady and then said that she actually wanted to say something about the new stone. The Marquise asks if she means pink beryl. The girl says yes, and then reveals that it turns out she already knows all the information. The lady says that there are not many pink stones in the world, and pink beryl is the rarest of them, and she has secretly heard about it. The main character assures that she will be interested, because they are going to demonstrate new jewelry with pink beryl, and it will be somewhat similar to the Canary series. The young lady announces that she would like to offer her something new from the collection. Adama, surprised, asks what it could be. She replies that she's announcing the new product at a party, and their most important customers will have priority. Medina reports that she would call it a show evening, and the hosts of the ball will be the Rotenberg family. The main character thought that, although the Marquise was stingy, she understood the hints perfectly well, and then said that they wanted to ask that their family organize the evening if possible. The Marquise says that all representatives of high society will be eagerly awaiting him, as she believes that there is no one more suitable for such an event, and it is an honor for her. Medina says that she will be honest with her if possible, and then reveals that she wanted to be the only debutante at the evening. A collaboration between the Rotenberg Trading Company and a street of jewelers' rumors circulated among the aristocrats that the Rotenberg house was about to announce a new product, and everyone was eager to attend the showcase evening, as Savia herself, Relsan, will be the hostess of the party, and it will be an outstanding event. The maid says that their lady keeps talking about this evening, and she heard that only people of high rank will be able to attend this event. The butler informs the count that they have been inundated with letters informing them that many guests would like to withdraw their intentions to attend his ball. Kavan angrily asks who these scumbags take him for, and then suggests that he immediately respond to everyone and say that it is unacceptable to refuse to attend his event. The butler says that he will write responses to all houses as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the count doesn't understand how he could lose, and then screaming says that they can't imagine what a huge amount of money he invested in that evening, and no one can even imagine how much he wanted to become the sole owner of the debutante's ball. Calvin screaming says that he will definitely take revenge, and that the Rotenbergs will pay for this. Susan says that his stupidity borders on uselessness, and she does not understand how they managed to lose so quickly, but she believes that she needs more power because even with the Count's patronage, she cannot act independently before her debut. Suddenly, the girl felt a headache and thought that it had been haunting her since childhood, and every time visions flashed before her eyes that did not look like memories, but seemed to be something very familiar, and as if she was forgetting something, and it was something extremely important. The maid tells the miss that she brought her lunch, and Susan screams and drives her away, asking how she dares to disturb her. The maid asks her to forgive her, and the girl thought that she would also have to get rid of her, since everything had become boring and pointless. The lady thought that at first it was fun there, but now she feels cramped, but she should be above this, because she believes that she should be idolized, and she wanted to become an adult as soon as possible. Relsan estate, but in an elegant villa that exudes Savia's authority. Guests were stunned by the beauty of the precious stones on the candelabra and golden silk curtains. The aristocrats say that this villa belongs to the imperial family, and they understand that the emperor really cares about his mistress's reputation. The lady says that it is a wonderful and luxurious evening, and she will not fail to win the favor of the Marquise of Relsans. Meanwhile, the main character was thinking that while her family had contributed to the evening, it all seemed far too expensive. She wondered how much public money had been spent on this ball. The maid asks Milady if she should add more ribbons to her dress. She objects and says that this is enough, and the maid says she can't believe that today is her debut, and she's so nervous. Medina says this isn't her first evening in high society, but it all seems too dramatic. Mother asks if it's romantic, as she believes today is her chance to start a close, or perhaps very close relationship with someone. My daughter says she's been reading too many romance novels. Luciola asks if she's finished with her preparations, and then says she's the star of the ball tonight because everyone's talking about her. The Countess tells her daughter that she's grown so much. The young lady counters that she still has a lot to learn, but she feels like a child around her. The mother asks if she's saying this to make her happy, and then tells her that she stopped acting childish a long time ago. The girl replies that if that happens, she promises to start fooling around again. Luciola believes she will miss those days very much after her marriage, and she is sure that Farron also wanted to be present at her debut. The lady says she's disappointed. He's not here because he was so helpful with the preparations, and she thinks she was so busy planning the evening that she didn't get to talk to him about it. She thinks the guy acts like nothing's bothering him. Medena understands that she does not want to avoid problems in this way, even though they are connected only by a contract, but he is truly dear to her. Mother informs her that she will be watching her from the main hall, and then says that it is time for her to go. The maid tells the lady that everything is ready for her arrival, and the miss says that she will be there in a minute, and thought that if this is a war, then the dress is her armor, and she understands that it is time for her to go out. The butlers report that Lady Medena Rothenberg has arrived to present them with the new Young Rose jewelry collection. When they saw the jewelry, they thought it was so bright and so delicate. They understood that the exclusive right to the Rothenberg pink beryl would allow them to quickly fill their treasury. The lady says the stones are certainly magnificent, but Lady Medena herself is far more beautiful than rumors suggest. The gentleman agrees and says he's sure she'll be inundated with marriage proposals in a short time. And the main character greets them and then announces that she is Medena Rothenberg and that she is honored to be in front of numerous guests today. The girl says she wants to start by thanking the hostess of this evening, the Marquise Savia Rilsan. The lady explains that, as they announced earlier, the Young Rose jewelry collection will be presented to guests for the first time today, and their invitation is one of the first to approve the right to purchase jewelry. The young countess asks to see each piece. She then explains that, as the name suggests, the Young Rose collection is presented in soft pink tones, and that this piece will enhance the elegance of any woman. Medena reports that the stones in these pieces are framed with durable ellichark, which skillfully highlights the beauty of the beryl. The aristocrats are surprised and ask how she came up with the idea of using this as a decoration, because they think it is incredibly beautiful. The girl says that the Marquise will personally help everyone who wants to try on jewelry, because she hopes that the Young Rose series will leave everyone present with a lasting impression. The Marquise announces that this evening is Lady Medena's debut in high society, and she believes that from now on, she will become an unfading, beautiful flower. The young countess says it's an honor to hear her say that the Marchioness asks all the guests to enjoy the evening, and then turns to the girl and says it's a wonderful job, as she seems to have been completely unfazed by all eyes on her. Medena says her generosity hasn't allowed her to make any mistakes, but in truth, she's trembling all over. The woman says she's flattering her so skillfully, and then mentions that she's noticed she still hasn't chosen a date for the evening. The girl explains that the announcement of the Young Rose was the main event for today, and she decided that she did not need a gentleman, and at that time, she thought that she was too lazy to look for one in the first place. The Marquise says that so be it, but such an event happens once in a lifetime, and then asks if she would like to take advantage of it, since after all, debutantes often marry their gentlemen. Medena smiled and suggested that the Young Rose be her date for the day. Relsan informed her that she really liked the young lady and suggested they meet later. At this time, the main character thought that she was really very grateful to the Marquise, because she believed that this deal would buy them all off 100-fold. The girl went out onto the balcony to look at the stars in the night sky, and she understands that if it weren't for Count Cavan Talcio, she wouldn't have had such a grand debut. Madonna understands that she was so busy with the Young Rose and her debut, but finally it's all over, and she wants to go home and get some sleep. And since tomorrow she has a free day, and she hopes that she will be able to talk to Farron. Suddenly, the girl saw a magic circle in the sky, and a few minutes later, a guy appeared in front of her and greeted her. The young lady, surprised, asks how he got there. He apologizes for scaring her. The girl explains that she realized he did it with magic. Farron says he thought about it and decided it would be wrong to be absent from her debut, so he had to sneak in uninvited. The Countess asks what will happen if anyone notices. He showed up to the party uninvited. The young man assures her everything is fine and explains that he put a barrier around the terrace just in case, and now no one will see them. Medena understands why she doesn't hear sounds from the hall, and then says that he couldn't have gone inside, and then asks how he knew that she would be there. Farron explains that she always goes out onto the terrace for some fresh air, so he figured today would be no exception. He then adds that they might be seen if he stays there too long, so he should leave soon. At this time, the main character does not understand why she is so happy about his appearance, because she did not attach much importance to the debut, but apparently sincerely wanted him to congratulate her. The guy says she's as stunningly beautiful as ever, and the girl explains he's seen her in that dress countless times. The young man insists she's getting prettier every day. Medina blushed and told him to stop teasing her. The guy assured her that he was always sincere with hers. The young countess then asks him to answer honestly whether he's angry after that meeting with Blint. He replies that he was very angry, and the girl asks why he didn't say anything then. Farron says he wasn't lying when he said he wasn't opposed to hiring him, then asks if she remembers what Blind asked. He says that when he heard his words, he wanted her to be angry and to tell him it was impossible. The guy says that if they switched places, he would be seriously angry, and if he was asked to choose someone other than Medina, but she was not angry and still intended to hire a blind man. Farron says he knows it's too selfish, so he tried to forget about it. The protagonist explains that even though she wasn't angry back then, that doesn't mean she doesn't care about him. The guy says that he understands this, but for her he is still a child, but he understands that it is stupid to be offended by her because of this. Medina says that there is nothing wrong with that, and thanks him for his honesty, and then says that she is truly grateful to him for his concern, but does not want him to hide his grievances because she feels the same as he does, and says that he is very dear to her. The girl says that she hopes next time he won't be embarrassed to tell her that he was offended, and the young man assures her that this is what will happen. The main character asks if he wants to tell her anything else, and suggests not to be afraid, since they are already being frank. Farron asks if he can ask for one childish favor, and then announces that he wants to be his first dance partner. The girl asks if it's possible to dance without hearing the music. He asks if that's a problem, and then, with a snap of his fingers, the music starts playing. The lady says it's much better this way and asks the guy if he can dance. Farron says he can but doesn't really talk about it, and says he practiced a lot because he hoped to dance with her one day. Medina then asks for the honor of inviting him to dance. He says it's an honor to be the cavalier of such a beautiful girl, and offers to leave her worries to himself, and then they begin to dance. The main character thought that she had already forgotten the last time she spent time like this, and she believes that this piece is proof that fate has changed, and she is glad that she decided to support him. Farron says that he feels like he's kept her too long, and thinks that they should return to the guests, otherwise they'll start searching. The lady agrees with him, and then says that he should return home. The guy says that although it's unofficial, he's happy to be her first dance partner after her debut. Medina says that he is very nice and offers to see him later and then leaves. The guy says that she is actually afraid of him, that the reason why he is important to her is that he is just a useful tool in her hands. The main character realizes that along with the series announcement, the young Rose and her public debut had turned into a resounding success. After the evening ended, she was inundated with various invitations and marriage proposals. However, she knew she had no plans to commit anytime soon. Milady believes that now that the debut is over, there is one more issue left to deal with. Medina asks the guy if he's sure he can handle it, and then says he understands he doesn't like Blint's company. He replies that he's sure, and explains that he still wanted to stay there with her. The girl asks if everyone has left the estate. He replies that they left after their last conversation, so the captain, sorry, was busy with repairs and other matters. The young countess thought that if she could hire the Rojal tribe, they would be of great help in the long run, but she realized that before that, she needed to solve some problems. The maid informs the mistress that her guest has arrived, and the lady offers to let him in. When Blind entered the room, the girl was surprised to hear that he had changed, as his hair had become lighter. The guy said he heard she had a great debut. Farron reports that it looks like some kind of illusion magic. Blint smiles and says he knew he'd recognize it, then explains that this magic is the result of his research, and he's sorry he was able to see through it so easily. The guy says he thinks it's better not to show that he's a rogue while he's involved in business with them. The main character thought about how this appearance was described in the novel. The guy says that, judging by everything, he just became a little more valuable to them and therefore asks for an honest answer to his question. Medina thought that there could be no other answer, and then offered to speak frankly, and said that if his condition for accepting her offer is to refuse sponsorship to Farron in his favor, then she has no intention of accepting it. Blint asks if it's because Farron is more talented than him. She replies that it's not true, and explains that it's because he's more important to her than Blint. Hearing this, the guest asks if she will change her priorities. The lady replies that there's no point in testing her patience any further, as she doesn't treat people that way, and people aren't just vessels of emotion, so she refuses to accept his terms. Blint insists that he is more capable, but the girl says that it doesn't matter, and thinks that she is apparently just wasting her time, and is no longer going to listen to his caustic remarks. Medina tells Farron they're leaving. Hearing this, the guest laughs, and the lady asks if he's out of his mind. He replies that he's not at all, and asks for forgiveness, then says he's simply glad to hear exactly what he wanted. The main character was surprised to hear this. Blint turned to the lady and said that he was now confident she wouldn't turn her back on the Rojal tribe, even if a more advantageous ally presented itself, as he had already been sufficiently convinced of this. Hearing this, the girl thought that he was checking her to make sure his people were safe. Blint says that he knew he was right about her, and then explains that it was a life-or-death bet, and he was right. The blonde guy says that if she's not satisfied with his apology, she can behead him, but the lady insists that's unnecessary, reflecting on how he stuck to his guns until the very end. And now she realizes that it's not for nothing that this guy was called a master negotiator. Blint informs them that if they still intend to hire him, he asks them to sit down. Medina says she's not sure anymore, and will let Farron decide for her, but the guy says he'll probably be unemployed. The main character thought that she wanted to hire him to help Farron found his organization, but she would not insist unless he himself wanted Blind as an assistant. Farron informs her that he's hiring a blind man. Upon hearing this, the lady says there's no need to force herself if he doesn't want to. The guy tells her not to worry, as he understands his reasons. Medina says that if Farron has given his approval, she wonders if he'll officially agree to work for the trading company. He replies that he has no objections, and should thank her for her decision despite his insolent behavior, then declares that from now on, he'll obey her in everything. The Countess says there are plenty of urgent matters at the moment, and she would be grateful if he would begin as soon as possible. Then she informs him that Director Lucas was unable to attend today due to preparations for the hiring of all their fellow tribesmen. Blint says that of course he understands and suggests that they go, since everyone has important things to do. Farron informs the lady that he will immediately take Blint to the trading company and report the results to Captain Snorri. The main character says that he will help her a lot, and the guy says that he is happy to try. Farron turns to the boy and says that now that Lady Medina has left, they have something to talk about. Hearing this, Blint asks if this is what labor discrimination looks like. The dark-haired man hit the young man several times and said he chose to accept him because it was easier to keep an eye on him this way. He then said that if he showed arrogance again, he would take immediate care of him. Farron says that if he tries to harm Lady Madonna even the slightest bit, or behaves inappropriately in front of her, he will not die peacefully, and asks if he understands. Blint assures that he can be sure that he does not plan to harm his mistress, because in addition, he does not yet fully trust her, and therefore will always take into account the possibility of betrayal. Farron assures him that Lady Medina is different. Blint says he understands and will become an obedient dog. The guy says that he better tell the striped raven that the moment he starts to behave suspiciously, he will get rid of him. Blint asks how he knows about this, and thinks it's amazing he's kept so quiet. Until now, Farron says it's all up to her discretion. Then she says enough of the idle chatter, as there's a lot of work to do, and they need to go. At this time, the main character tells the driver to wait for her, because she will not be late. The man asks the lady what she needs. She replies that she needs a single striped raven feather. Hearing this, the man asks her to wait at the table. Jack says he can't believe such a young lady is looking for him, and then says she must be very interested in him. Medina tells him to shut up and sit down. The guy says that in general, he assumes she has a reason for coming to him. The girl says that from today on, Blint has officially joined the company of the merchant Lucas, and then asks why he doesn't even pretend to be surprised. The lady says she hired him because he delivers results worth the price. But he lied to her about Blint, and Blint didn't even show that he was trying to hide everything. Jack is surprised to hear that she notices things very quickly, so he expected her to find out about it soon. The lady says she'll at least listen to his excuse. The guy says he doesn't make excuses and is someone who values money more than pride. Jack states that he would rather avoid being targeted for his report, and then states that he doesn't know why she made such a request. Hearing this, the main character thought about how, on the other hand, he had no way of knowing why she wanted to find Blint. She said she couldn't believe the striped raven had such a side, even though he was known for his servility to money. The man apologizes if he disappointed her. She says enough of the idle chatter, and then asks how long he's known Blint. Jack says that he helped him escape when he was enslaved by a dishonest nobleman, and that is why he was so picky when choosing a new master, and hopes that she will not scold him too much. The guy says he's been through a lot, and Blint may always smile and laugh, but inside he harbors a deep hatred for people. Then he says that earning his trust will take more than just effort. Medina says she'll take everything into account, then announces she's already finished. Jack asks if she even planned to have a drink. The lady explains that she's heard everything she needed to hear and is leaving. He asks if she'll continue using his services. The girl says she'll continue, of course, but she won't pay him for the Blintz deal. Jack thinks she's being quite generous. The lady says she simply understands his motives. That's all because she believes she would have done the same if she were in his place. The main character says that this is exactly what she expects, that he will bring her something worth its price in the future, and then suggests meeting next time. After 6 months, Medina says she is cold and thinks she should have gotten some sleep, as she can no longer work all night, especially in this weather. The girl estimates that 6 months have passed since she hired Blint and the Rogels. Lucas, the merchant's company, has grown and become quite a large business. The main character understands that she has to manage the company of the merchant Lucas and continue her lessons as the next head of the house, but she does not understand why her work never ends despite all her efforts. Medina knows that the story of the original novel will begin 3 years after Farron becomes an adult, and she needs to complete all her goals by then, so she understands that there is still a lot of work. But fortunately, she finally found a clue to Portia's location. In the novel, Portia demonstrated incredible talent in magical research. However, she was sold to a merchant at a young age because she was a mage. Afterward, she was exploited and imprisoned for the rest of her life. Portia couldn't even escape on her own because of her legs. In the original novel, Susan rescues Portia, who has sunk into despair after years of imprisonment. And then Susan uses her talents. Lady realizes she was having trouble remembering where Portia was imprisoned, and she recalls Jack's words about helping him escape when he was enslaved by a dishonorable nobleman. And so she believes that learning that Blind was once a slave was the key to her success. Based on this information, the protagonist began investigating the organization that sold Blint. She speculates that Blint may have been intrigued by the fact that another mage was enslaved like him because he was trying so hard to find the traffickers. Medina thinks that even now Portia must be suffering, and she needs to find her and free her as soon as possible. But at that moment, she felt a strong chill and thinks it must be the cold weather that's making her cold and so tired. The lady thought she should take a nap after staying awake all night, but she changed her mind because she knew she only had 3 years left and needed to finish the paperwork at least today. Farron's birthday was coming soon, and from the day she first met him, she always celebrated his birthday. The lady knows he always says thank you, no matter what she gives him, so she's at a loss as to what to give him. So she wondered what she could do this year. The main character felt cold again and thought that this wouldn't do, and that she should ask someone to bring her a blanket. Farron entered the lady's room. He saw her lying on the floor. He quickly ran to her and asked if she was okay, as she was burning up, and also wondered if she had been sitting up all night again. Medina thought about how she had tried to work secretly because she knew Farron would object, but she had still been caught. The guy says that he will not scold a sick person and picks her up and says that he will take her to her room. The lady objects and says that she can go on her own, but the guy assures her that in bed, she can kick as much as she wants. At this time, the main character realized that he had grown so much because she knew that before he was smaller than her, and she couldn't believe that he was already so big. Medina is proud of him and also somehow sad, Farron says it looks like there's nothing serious other than her fever. He explains that he quickly diagnosed her with magic and then asks if she's sure she doesn't want to see a doctor. The main character says it's not necessary, as it's just a mild cold. The guy says it's no surprise she got sick since she sat up all night in light clothing. Farron says he's angry now, and then asks why she's laughing. She replies that she knows, and that's why she's apologizing. She explains that he's old enough to scold her. The guy says that she always treats him like a child, and she smiles, and says that he is still young. The young man says that she must take care of herself as an adult Madonna, and then suggests that she should not try to work secretly because she will harm herself. The lady says he's being too picky. The guy insists that she should only be thinking about relaxing today, so he's canceling all her meetings for the day. The girl, surprised, asks if she can just finish 2 documents. He categorically forbids it. Madonna asks him to send them for her, since they're documents for the purchase of iron ore. The young man says he'll take care of everything and suggests they stop thinking about work. But the lady says he really isn't letting her do anything. Farron reminds her not to forget her medications and then gives her a pill and tells her not to spit it out and to dissolve it before swallowing. Within a few minutes, the girl says that she feels very bitter, and the guy offers to take some candy and water to wash it down. At this time, the main character thought that she was simply eating everything that he gave her and therefore felt like a child. Farron tells the girl that she has sugar around her mouth. Hearing this, she smiles and says that she is so stupid. The young man insists that she needs to clear her head and rest. The woman agrees and says she'll sleep. At that moment, she thinks about how people usually lick things like that and doesn't understand what she was thinking, knowing he must have done it involuntarily. The guy invites her to sleep and then tells her that he will bring her something soft for dinner in the evening. Madonna thought that she had made him worry again, and in fact, Farron had given her this music box for her birthday this year, and she could add or change the music as she liked, and even change the order. The girl knows she will work endlessly as long as she's regularly supplied with mana. Farron gave her magical artifacts for every birthday, and at first he was a bit clumsy, but recently he's become very skilled. The lady is sure he's very busy with work, but it's interesting when a guy finds time for research and creation. But no matter how much she thinks about it, her gifts lack sincerity compared to Farron's, and she feels as if she's simply spending money without thinking. The main character thought about what happened today too, and she sees that the guy really cares about her and is worried about her, and therefore wants to show him that she feels the same. The girl says she wants to give Farron something special this year, and will definitely find a gift with deep meaning, not just an expensive item. However, she realizes the problem is that she doesn't know what he likes. Madonna doesn't want to just ask him directly, but then she realizes that if she can't ask the man himself, she thinks she can ask his circle, and assumes that maybe Blind knows something. The main character thinks about the fact that she still needs to meet with Blint tomorrow about the Porsche, but she realizes that she can ask him when they meet, and it's possible that this is because she is a noblewoman, but Blint is not very friendly with her. The girl understands that nevertheless, he and Farron could have developed a brotherly relationship by this time, and Farron could tell Blintu things that he cannot tell her, and therefore she is looking forward to tomorrow. The next morning, Madonna felt better and thought her cold must have been caused by overwork, but after a good night's sleep, she felt fine. However, she felt Farron was still worried and couldn't let this opportunity pass. The lady says she's going to prepare an amazing birthday party for Farron with Blint's help. Blint tells the lady they haven't seen each other in a while. She asks why she didn't visit him very often. He smiles and suggests he come more often, instead of sending a representative all the time. The girl insists that everyone is doing just fine without her. Blint thanks her for the compliment, even if it's just flattery, and then suggests getting down to business. The guy says he has a report on the Porsche investigation, and the human traffickers were exposed by the Striped Raven, and then says that at that time he escaped and therefore there is little information left. Blint reports that they have tracked the history of their transactions, and apparently a mage named Portia was sold to someone in the city of Siorafin, and it was quite a long time ago. That's all they could find. The main character says that on the other hand, in rural areas, it is easier to sell people because the local government is so corrupt that it has become a haven for criminals. Blint explains that the problem is that they were able to find out where the Porsche was sold, but they couldn't find out who it was sold to. The Countess says that, however, not everyone can buy and trade slaves, and that participation in human trafficking means that that person has a certain amount of wealth and power, and she limits possible candidates based on that information. Blint reports that it was most likely someone of noble birth. Medina says they can't be sure, but they might find more information as they continue their investigation. The guy suggests that it would be difficult for the Rotenberg family to directly intervene in this situation, and then asks if that is true. Hearing this, the Countess smiled and asked if it wasn't because she had everything she needed to help him. She then explained that she was an independent trading company with no ties to the House of Rotenberg, and a trading company that could expand into all possible areas. Blint says he understands that she wants them to dig up more information by offering business proposals. She says she likes how quickly he understands what she's talking about. Blint reports that Director Snorri will definitely appreciate it. The lady is confident he'll pass on all the details. The guy asks if this means she's going to go to the city on her own. She replies that she is. Madonna believes they should act separately to avoid attracting attention, so she plans to disguise her visit as a winter vacation. Blint says that he understands, and then reports that this is all for today, according to the report. The main character says that, in fact, there is one more thing that she would like to discuss with him. The guy says that he expected this, because in the end, she wanted to meet him without Farron, and therefore he assumes that this has to do with him, and asks if it is true. The Countess says it's true, he understands everything quickly. The guy assures her that this is his specialty, and then asks what she wants to know, wondering if she wants to know what he usually does, or maybe how he manages his money. Blint asks if she wants to know about his romantic life. She says it's not what she thought, but she suddenly became curious. In any case, if he knows so much, it must mean he's become a close friend of Farron's. Blint apologized, and the main character said it was a relief, and she was glad they were getting along. He said that, in any case, he was curious about what she wanted to ask him. Medina explains that Farron's birthday is actually coming up next month. The guy says he didn't know about it. The girl says that she wants to prepare a special gift for him this time. Blint asks if she's saying his one-sided feelings will finally be reciprocated. She's surprised to hear this, and he says he means Farron is already preparing for her birthday too, and then he thinks he's an idiot. The Countess says she understands, then explains that her birthday isn't until spring. Farron always celebrated her birthday so carefully, and she feels like she's always done the bare minimum for his. The lady reports that the guy said he liked everything she gave him, but he never said anything about what he preferred or disliked. Therefore, she believes he must feel pressured because she's his patron. Blint agrees with her, and Madonna says she's glad he's so close to Farron, and explains that she simply couldn't come up with anything on her own. Hearing this, Blint doesn't understand how to correct her misunderstanding. The girl asks if he knows what Farron has been interested in lately, or if there's something else he wants. The guy replies that of course he knows, and then says that he desires her, Lady Medina. The Countess insists she's not joking, but Blint insists it's true, and Deputy Farron isn't interested in anything other than her, the lady. Blint states that otherwise he thinks she might find something that can't be found anywhere else, and that contains her sincerity, and then asks how about that. Medina asks if this is something that can't be found anywhere else, and at that moment, she thought he meant something amazing and rare, like the magical artifacts Farron makes. Blint thought that she should be able to come up with something romantic, like a handwritten letter, or maybe even an embroidered handkerchief, and he would tell Deputy Fappin about his contribution later. The main character thanks the guy and announces that she's made her decision. He asks what she's decided on. The Countess says it will be a talisman. Hearing this, Blint asks if he heard correctly, and the girl asserts that she will find a rare talisman that cannot even be bought with money. The lady announces that she will soon visit the city of Siorafin, where the Temple of Vachan is located. Since Vachan is the god of peace and gentleness, this temple is one of the most popular Vachane's talismans sold at the temple, is widely known for its ability to destroy monsters, and is not sold to just anyone, making it so rare. Madonna knows that many want to receive the god's blessing, even if they fail to obtain the talisman, and their reservation list is full for the next couple of years. The girl says that this is exactly why she is not on the reservation list, but she can get there with a donation, and then claims that this is the perfect plan. Blint thought that a talisman of peace for a man who could probably survive hell doesn't seem to suit him very well, and says that he really does think he'll be happy. The Countess says she thinks that's all for now and asks him to ensure his report today is presented in document form rather than in person. Blint says he understands and assures the lady there's nothing to worry about. The guy suggests meeting later in the city of Siorafin. When the mistress arrived home, she asked if the Farron was still there. The maid replied that he wasn't there, and then said she would help her change. The Countess agrees and says that they must be quick so that he does not notice. Farron enters the room, and the maid asks to give them a minute. The guy asks if she was there too. The maid says she was looking after Lady Madonna in his absence. The young man thanked her, and the maid explained that she was just doing her job. Farron tells the lady that he has taken care of everything for today, and then asks how she is feeling, and hopes that she is not getting worse. Madonna assures her she's fine and doesn't think he should worry. He says he's glad to hear it, and when he touches her face, he points out that she's been in a warm room this whole time and asks why her body feels so cold. The girl was probably explaining something because she was sticking her head out from under the blanket. The guy asks for her hand, and at that time, the main character realized that he noticed. Farron took her hand and offered to be honest with him, then asked if she had gone outside and if it was some kind of emergency. The Countess explains that nothing of the sort happened and that she went outside to get some fresh air because it had become stuffy inside. The guy says he understands that it might be unpleasant to be indoors, but yesterday she had a very high temperature. At this point, the main character thought that if she hadn't rushed outside, she wouldn't have been able to talk to him about the gift. Then she says she knows and apologizes for making him so worried. Farron claims that she shouldn't apologize to him like that, but he wishes she would take better care of herself, because when she's feeling bad, it's very hard for him too. Madonna thanks him for being so concerned about her, and the guy asks where she went. Hearing this, the main character thought that it would be more difficult to hide the fact that she met with Blint, and then reports that she went to Blint because she wanted to confirm the results of the investigation. The young man says that if she had told him, he would have gone with her, and she wouldn't have had to go there alone. The lady says it's true, then apologizes and says that since everything has become clear, it seems Portia is in the city of Siorafin. The Countess says she's thinking of going there herself, but officially, she's going there for a winter vacation. Then she asks if he'll go with her. He agrees, believing it's the perfect time, and that she should consider it a vacation and a chance to relax since she's overworked, and he'll make all the arrangements for the trip. The main character agrees with him and says that she will take with her as much work as she needs, since there is a lot to do. Suddenly, the girl noticed that he had the same face he makes before he starts scolding her. The next day, Farron apologizes for not being in the office. Scene says he doesn't have to worry about it because he thinks nothing happened and suggests looking at the financial documents on his desk that require his approval. The guy thanked the director and then asked if she had heard that their mistress was going to visit the city. The woman asks if he knows she met with Manager Blint yesterday. Then she reveals that her secret hideout has already been exposed and says she's perfect in every other way, but always a little awkward when it comes to him. Farron thinks it sounds like she's insulting Lady Madonna. She explains that she didn't mean it that way and asks him not to look at her that way. The guy asks if she's also going to Sorfin. She replies that only the manager Blint is going because he thinks someone should stay in the capital and handle the paperwork. Cyan explains that she will arrange a meeting with prestigious nobles in the city of Siorafin because she knows that their mistress is quite eccentric and she is gathering magicians. The guy says it's probably for the future Lady Medon wants to create. The woman agrees since no one talks about it, but everyone awaits the new future that the mages will bring. Blint reports that he is back, and Farron says that he heard that he met with Lady Madonna yesterday and assures that everything is fine since he learned about the little escape. The blonde guy says he understands and then says he'll have to explain it twice. Farron says that he knows that's not all they talked about and then asks what else the lady talked to him about. Hearing this, Sane says that now that she has thought about everything it is true, and she is wondering why Lady Madonna specifically called only Blint, and at that time thought that the director was up to something again. Blint realizes he should stop teasing this guy, and then says he's not sure if he should tell him about it. Farron asks if she asked him for love advice. The woman thinks the guy has fallen for it, and he's already bought it. Farron asks what advice she asked for and offers to repeat it again. The blonde guy says that he is so scary and claims that there is no need to be so threatening since she was just conducting a survey. And it is obvious. Blint explains that Lady Madonna was simply looking out for him and asking if he was having any problems at his new job. The woman says that their boss is truly the kindest person. Farron insists he'd better not say anything unnecessary. Blint reports that he definitely didn't say a word about being rude and threatening when Lady Madonna isn't around. The black-haired man says that if he has any complaints about the current work environment, he's willing to resolve them. Sin understands that he's always on his best behavior when it comes to Lady Madonna, and says that in this case, she thinks their company lacks certain employee benefits. The woman tells him not to be shy about proposing, because she heard that tobacco leaves are a specialty of the city of Siorafin, and it seems like a good idea. Blint asks if he can offer anything he wants, and then says he wants money. Farron says he'll consider their offers, but at this point, he's confused as to why he feels like he's being deceived. A few days later, the main character says that a lot of time has passed since they last traveled so far together. Farron agrees with her and says that at such moments, he is glad that they are bound by a blood contract, because they can always be together. He would not like it if she had to go far away, and he would stay. Madonna says he's grown up but hasn't changed at all, and she's sure even he'll want to be independent when he grows up. But the young man assures her that won't happen, and that he'll always be by her side, even in the future. Hearing this, the main character thought that she liked that. He was so attentive, but they were moving away from each other, and she understood this, and also knew that Farron would become the future emperor. The Countess understands that the guy will not completely ignore her, even when he becomes emperor, and then thanks him for saying this. The young man says that instead of discussing such a serious topic, they should check their schedule, and then asks what she plans to do after arriving in the city. The lady explains that she will need to listen to the Blintz's report once they arrive, and after that, she would like to look around a bit since they are traveling so far. Farron says the city is famous for having the largest lake in the empire and an ancient temple there. The girl agrees with him and says that the temple honors Vechan, the gentle god of peace, and she's also thinking of visiting. The guy says he thought she didn't worship any gods. Madonna says that this is a famous tourist attraction, and since it is the god of peace and tranquility, she would like to pray at least once. The young man says that he will not be able to join her to visit the Vechna temple, and therefore asks her to take care of herself. Some temples have restrictions on visitors, depending on their policies. The protagonist realizes that Relton's temple, where Farron and she swore a blood pact, is open to all, but commoners are forbidden from entering Vechan's temple. Mendana thought about how in other regions, houses of prayer allow commoners to enter for a donation, but it is essentially the same thing, and she is interested in what they think about religion. The Countess believes that this time everything is in her favor, since she wants to buy a gift for Farron's birthday, but she knows that this leaves an unpleasant aftertaste. The day after their arrival in the city of Siorafin, Farron claims that they have a space reserved in the name of the Lucas Trading Company. Blint greeted Lady Madonna and said he was glad to see her. She told him not to call her that while they were here. The guy apologized and then called her Lady Liance. She said that was good because she even had an ID. Blint was surprised to hear this, and then said that he thought she was just using a fake name to avoid attention, and then asked if she did it. The Countess explains that it's not a fake, and that she simply borrowed it. The young man, surprised, asks if nobles can be like that, and then says that if that's the case, he'll begin his report. Blint reports that he contacted key nobles in the city of Siorafin as his mistress requested. The lady asks what he found. The fair-haired guy replies that unfortunately, nothing, and explains that he found several places that the local government bought for its own benefit or used unofficial methods, but these were all small players. The guy says that there was not a single house that was capable of keeping magicians in slavery through human trafficking. Mendana believes that, judging by how carefully his report was prepared, there can be no doubt. Then he says that if they're not looking for a nobleman's house, he's interested in a wealthy commoner. Blint replies that he checked this too, but it seems that there is no commoner in the city rich enough to buy slaves. The main character thought that the information she received about the owner, who bought the Porsche, being in the city of Siorafin, was reliable, and understood that someone was not a nobleman, but had enough wealth and power to buy slaves and keep them secret. The Countess asks, "What about the temple?" and thought that the problem is whether the temple has a reason to keep the magician enslaved. Blint says that in fact, now that she mentioned it, he found one common feature when he studied all the noble houses. The guy reports that almost all the noble houses made huge donations to the Vechen temple, and he believes that it seems that pleasing this temple is very important for the people of this city. Madonna suggests that they may have been engaging in corrupt activities behind the scenes to maintain this level of power, and advises that she should head to the temple immediately. Blint asks if the temple really uses slaves. Lady replies that it's just a guess, and suggests that perhaps the temple is the only organization other than the nobility that controls such a vast amount of power and wealth. Madonna realizes that even in the original novel, when Susan founded a new country, the temples collapsed along with the royal family due to the many corrupt temples. The Countess asks Farron if there's anyone imprisoned inside the temple and if he has a way to confirm it. He replies that his capabilities will be limited to the radius, but believes he can peer inside using projection magic without going inside. Hearing this, the girl rejoiced and said that this was wonderful. Farron informed her that he would need the temple's central coordinates if he was unable to access it due to his status. The lady says that she was planning to visit the temple anyway, and if she can help in any way, she wants to do it because she thinks that everything is possible. The guy asks for a video if possible to be sure to explore every corner of the temple, because if she does this, he will be able to look into the temple without even entering it. Blint says it's all easy in theory, then asks if he's really going to use projection magic while simultaneously modifying it. He says the guy really is a monster. The main character smiled and said she always admired Farron's magical skills. Blint considered himself truly lucky to be on their side. Madonna informs that she needs to hurry and plan her visit to the temple. She tells Blint to continue researching the information she requested. The main character hopes that this time they will be able to find and save Portia. At the entrance to the temple, the priest met Lady Lehance and said that the temple welcomes her with open arms. The Countess says she is glad to have the opportunity to visit the venerable Vechen temple. The girl understands that people usually have to wait a very long time before they are allowed to visit this temple, but when she offered a large amount as a donation, they included her visit in the schedule first, and she knows that they are easy to read. The priest says he heard that the lady wants to attend a service before purchasing a talisman at their temple. The lady explains that she wanted to inspect the temple because such an opportunity does not come along often, and then asks if this is too impudent. The priest says that of course, not because the doors of the temple are always open to those who are looking for direction. Hearing this, the main character thought that this so-called direction was truly expensive, and she thanked him for it. He suggested they go take a look around. Madonna realizes Farron must be watching from the outside. The Reverend suggests she check the time since they must go to the chapel for service, then asks if she wants to miss her chance to receive a blessing. The Countess says that he is right, and the man says that this is a chapel and she can enter it. The girl thought that there were no windows, and it was so dark even though it was daytime, and the priest said that the service was starting now. The main character thought that it would be boring when they start blessing people. It seems to her that the guy is watching without any problems. When the service ended, the lady thought that it had finally happened, and the priest was blessing those present. Madonna thought that it was quite beautiful when it was dark inside, although she wasn't sure that it was a blessing that it made any difference. The Reverend tells Lady Lehance that he's brought the temple talisman as she requested. She thanks him and asks if he can open it there. When she sees it, she says the talisman looks quite ordinary. The priest explains that when she touches the talisman with her hand, it will begin to radiate a blessing, and she can try it now. Madonna touched the talisman and saw a light, then said it was wonderful. The man said there was one thing she should remember about this talisman. The girl asks in surprise what this thing is, and he explains that the Vechen temple talisman is only valid for a certain time, and she will need a new talisman in a year. The Countess says that she understands, and at that moment thought that it was obviously a scam thought up by someone hungry for money, and says that she will remember this. The main character wants to expose their dirty secrets. Farron greets the lady who has returned. She asks if he found her. The guy reports finding and seeing a woman apparently imprisoned under the temple. The woman says she's very glad he found the video, and at the same time, she thinks it's a relief they found her, but she can't believe her suspicions were correct. The girl understands that the temple claims to be holy, but inside there is complete decay, and then says that they must save her as soon as possible, and asks if he thinks he can infiltrate the temple tonight and save Portia, just like he infiltrated her debut party. Farron says he should be able to do it. The Countess says she knows it's nothing new, but she's sorry she's forcing him to do such things. The guy tells her not to worry, because he will do whatever she asks. The main character understands that even if they save Portia, the temple will not be able to take any measures in revenge, because this would mean that they would admit that they held the slave in captivity. Madonna hopes everything will end smoothly, and she thinks that now that she knows the truth about the temple, she can't give it to Farron for his birthday, and she doesn't know what to do with his birthday gift. The Countess asks the guy if he returned so quickly, and also inquires about the Porsche.